Welcome to the Appalachian Podcast. I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Taylor Bodine, back in the OG studio for once.
Back in the Tap House, which is my favorite name for any studio.
Yeah,
we just need real taps.
It perhaps coming soon at some point. Tonight, we're blessed to be able to have a show in here as my wife sits downstairs bathing our 7-week-old child.
And you know, if you call it the Tap House, you could like really be cool and like put the kegs in the basement where it's real cool and have them, and then let's like pipe it into like a central vacuum. You know, like a central vacuuming system you used to see in houses. Billy could have put in a central beer tap station, and it just goes to every room in the house. He's got a beer tap.
That's genius. What we might do with that is maybe we'll just take the tap house studios somewhere else to an actual tap house. And I don't know if our community gets behind us enough, we ever make some money off this. I would love to bring a tap house here to town that samples all the different kind of local breweries. You know, not just one, unless, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, if I get FU money and I can, get Sterling White back into town to open up Callaway Brewing, I would pay him the money to do that, and I would, go that route. Otherwise, tap house. Stage for music. Well,
that would take away the fun of having a tap next to your bed. Or in a beer, shower beer.
Once I get the money to do that and that becomes successful, then when I build my house, I incorporate that into the building of my next house, of course.
Central beer tap. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, central beer tapping.
Yeah, so today's episode we were, first off, brought to you by Lawnworks. You can find them on Facebook under Lawnworks or at lawnworks.com, LAWN-WORX.com for all of your agricultural and landscaping needs. This weekend we went and saw all of Bradley's work at the shooting range down there at Pig River Precision, and it's magnificent. He's coming to work on my yard too. So if whatever you need in your landscaping around your house, give them a call. They're fantastic, great people.
Yeah, you've cut down on the clover in your yard, I see.
Yep, definitely. That was part of his deal. He's going to come back and do a few more treatments. It's I'm actually thinking about just turning the one half of my backyard because it's so. The water has been flowing down from the damn funeral home for so many years, and it just ruts it out essentially, and it's so uneven. Thought about just getting a handheld tiller back there or something, just grounding it up and turning it into a big garden. That way we can have food enough for the years. And
you sure that's water? It's flowing down from the funeral home.
God, that's all that water.
Well, I was thinking that, but I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to sound morbid, but I suppose so.
So today's show, we were supposed to have Jared Stout and Robbie Carden on. I talked to them last week. They were down here at Buddy's Barbecue playing. It was a kind of a last-minute deal, so else we would have promoted it and talked about it and tried to show up. But I went up there and talked to them and trying to get them on. They got a big show coming up here, I think June 16th. It's on a Thursday. They're opening for Joe Nichols. He sang that old country song from like 15 years ago, Broken Heartsville. It was kind of big. Yeah. And anyway, so he's playing at Motor Mile, and Jared Stout and they were opening, trying to get them on there to talk about that show. And that fell through tonight, but still keep tabs on that. Check them out on Facebook. Hopefully we'll get them back on here the next week or two before the show so we can, sell a few tickets.
We should have made up some badass story on why they didn't come.
We should have, but
yeah.
I
know why. I do know why. Jared sent me a text message. He had a chocolate anus casting accident.
Oh.
Yeah. He didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't ask any questions, but that was the reason.
So he's probably got some burns.
I would say probably a few.
Hopefully it didn't slide the wrong way. And
what was the position he said you got to get in to do the casting? The lawn chair?
The lawn chair?
Yeah.
Hopefully it didn't slide down in the wrong direction and fry the old beans.
Ooh.
Hopefully he's all right.
Yeah.
Well, if we see Jared and he's kind of walking around with his legs spread and he's got like an ice pack on him, we'll know.
Yeah. If he comes out on the stage when he opens for Joe Nichols bow-legged, you know why.
Well, I need somebody there documenting all this, of course.
Yeah.
But
praying he doesn't cough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jared and them didn't make it here tonight, and our guest we had asked to come kind of hang out, and because he was here with us last time, and we was like, we'll try to fill in and ask a few other people to come and have a talk. And I mean, Kyle, you hit up everybody you could, and I hit up everybody I could. I hit up CJ Arrington. I was like, for him, maybe we could talk about Vanilla Ice versus MC Hammer if you bring him in here, or John Clements, anybody. I sent a text message to the homeless guy over on Williamson Road who stands right there in front of the sheets. I was like, got to the guy who cleans the floors at Gold & Silver.
Man, it would have been a good one.
Nobody.
I mean, the guy's sign says, "We'll work for food." We could. I mean, you've got pretzel bites right here. We could have hooked a man up. All he had to do was talk.
After all of those people turning me down, I finally swallowed my pride and asked Josh Grice would he come on, and unfortunately he also had something else going on. So I think that's just all it was just that was the universe want me to go through the scientific process just to get to the same end result.
More than likely, he was involved in probably was pouring the chocolate for the butthole castings, and there was a horrific accident, and the police are probably questioning him.
He said can't. When I asked him, he said can't, bro, gymnastics. I said,
hold on, who's got gymnastics?
Well, he that's all he said. He just said can't, bro, gymnastics. And I told him, go stick that landing. We'll see you next time.
Oh, he is a very proficient gymnast, if anybody didn't know.
Yeah.
That's
why he keeps his weight down so he can look so good in a leotard.
If you really nudge him and beg him to, he can pull off some fantastic feats. You got to catch him in the right frame of mind. Maybe after a show, after he just got done playing one heck of he'll get up there and there's a balance beam or something like that. He's going to be doing some. He's phenomenal. So definitely get him to do something like that if you see him out in public.
We will. I'll ask him to do that. We just finalized the show today at Chaos Mountain. We'll be up there, me and Josh, on the 18th, June 18th, at Chaos Mountain. So we'll get the balance beam and the what is it? What's that thing called? Is it the sawhorse? What is that thing?
Josh is amazing on the sawhorse.
Yeah, we'll get him to do that.
Well, so if that's where he's at tonight, then that's understandable. We understand his need to get limber and do the things.
Yeah, because you got to get ready for that. So, yeah, come out to Chaos Mountain and see Josh Grice do some gymnastics as well as sing.
Yeah, we'll make that happen for sure. And shout out to Chaos Mountain. They sent me home with some really good. They got a new summer ale up there called Poolside, and it's a low ABV, and it's a refreshing summer beer, and it is damn good.
So when I think summer beer, refreshing, I think Corona, that kind of.
It's
and I'm not comparing them to Corona by any means, but what I mean is I think that kind of motif.
Yeah, it's got just a little hint of like citrus, but it's not a cerveza. It's I think it's just an ale. Anyway, it's good. If you go up there, try it out.
I'll try it.
And definitely check y'all out when you come up there and play. Every time I've been up there here the last few times that either one of y'all have been playing, it's always been a phenomenal crowd. Everybody's just Bodie never shows up. I beg him every time, and of course Kyle, he's never there. But if you're listening, check it, put it on your schedule, and it's always something interesting going on. Interesting people always show up.
Yeah, every time I feel like every time me and Justin play up there, we're lucky because we have so many friends and family that live in the county, and it's always packed when we're up there playing. And I'm not saying it's because of us, but it's just always a good time. And I think that speaks highly of the community around here because we do get a lot of support around here, and so does Josh.
Well, you can get, considering the location, things can get kind of rowdy up there, and you're not bothering anybody.
Yeah,
no joke.
Yeah.
And people act like they got some sense, and that's what you like about it.
I've never seen. I probably shouldn't say this because as soon as I say it, next time I'm up there, they'll show up. I'll just scratch that.
Yeah, it's all good.
So, man, what do y'all been doing?
Man,
Well,
we did
Bodine is addicted to a computer racing game.
simulator. I have a good time with it. It's bringing back some good stuff in me. The competitive edge.
Is that on PC or?
Yeah, PC.
It's cool.
We did the 24 hours of Le Mans this weekend.
Good Lord. You got one of those, one of those seats you sit in?
I don't have that part yet. Eventually, I will.
Man, it's high tech.
I'll just keep building it myself. A lot of the stuff I've accumulated, and I got a pretty good setup.
Nice.
And I have a lot of fun because I like that competition in me and being able to race with people and talk shit.
It is cool. I mean, if you're good at gaming, which I am not, anytime I try to play any game with other people online, I just get frustrated and
But remember,
turn it off.
there's a difference between gaming and simulations because simulations there's no help. I mean, you're 100% raw.
Oh.
And it's based off real physics.
Oh,
So-
okay.
But, Call of Duty would be a game. NASCAR games on Xbox would be a game.
Yeah.
This is more in the simulation where the physics are actually all the tracks are actually digitally scanned with lasers and shit. So,
I mean, you might as well just call a Star Trek fan a Star Wars fan, calling it a game just now, Kyle.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, I don't take offense to it, but I say there is a difference to the.
Yeah.
It's a simulation.
Yeah, I mean,
Not a
considering the real world uses them, like NASCAR F1
Yeah, no,
uses
I
it.
get it for sure. So can you get like flight simulators and stuff like that for your house? Really?
Yeah, it all runs on the same.
Yeah.
But you never know.
You know what I want to get the money for? Is a golf simulator.
Man,
That would be great.
do y'all remember the place down at the lake beyond the green?
I remember it. I never went there, but I remember it being there and having one.
We played down there a few times, and it wasn't really set up for live music because they had the golf simulators on either side of the place, and we set up right between the two golf simulators. So we'd be in the middle of a song, and all of a sudden you'd hear whack.
Some of these places people try and throw bands in.
But you would have been proud of me on iRacing. You really would have, Billy.
Okay.
I'd like to see that.
Well, I stream. I'll share the stream with you. Do I
Oh
have
yeah,
your
Kyle.
number?
Don't get,
All
you can also follow and watch these people live, and it's
So-
a fascinating world to say the least.
It is fascinating, but it's not for everybody. I don't expect everybody to like it. But so Billy, we do what's called the Major Series. They have like certain races throughout the year that are all big events. They do the Daytona 500 full length. They do the Indy 500 full length. They did the 24-hour Le Mans full length. Well, a couple weeks ago, I did the Indy 500. And before the races, they have these things called support races. It's where everybody can get together, just get a feel for how it's going to work. It's only like, it's half the race or a fraction of it. And there's real-time officials in the race. And on the restarts, these guys kept wrecking us. Me and my teammates. They were just, in IndyCar and even in real life, it has an accordion effect on the restarts.
Huh.
So these guys kept wrecking, and finally they wrecked me. And I keyed the public chat mic, which everybody can hear, and I called them a bunch of dumb bleepity bleep 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 bleeps. So the race official comes on there and says, "If you don't watch your language, I'm going to black flag you." And I said, and I quote, "You can black flag these nuts." And then he again reminded me, he said, if we're going to black flag you, and you're going to get suspended. And I said,
Suspend these nuts.
I said something along that lines, and then I questioned his ancestry. I told him to stick the black flag up his ass. And then I seen this message come across the top of the screen. Your public chat privileges have been revoked. I called him a bunch of liberal commie son of bastards, and that's pretty much where it ended. And yes, I questioned their ancestry. I thought Billy would have been proud of me on that one.
Yeah.
for citing rules to me. I said, why don't you do something about these dumb son of a bitches back here wrecking and kick them out and worried about me?
I was going to ask you if you said anything to them about them. If it was that obvious, they should have kicked them out.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
that's not the way the world works.
Let's just put this little story right here into perspective.
Go for it.
And essentially a sport that has come from auto racing, another sport that at one point in time you could easily have a grown man the size of a small like bear chasing you down with a tire iron and bashing your head in for getting wrecked. You know what I mean? Like, and now we're to the point to where words will get you banned from a chat.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
How freaking ridiculous has this world come to when words hurt enough to where you cannot? I mean, tire irons bash you in the head too. I mean,
I was just serving a point, and I was making a point, and I used sentence enhancers to articulate that a point. And I told the race official to stick the black flag up his ass.
I was just talking about this the other day with somebody. But yeah, I mean, same thing with with the NBA and stuff. You watch some of those old games from the 80s and, you see Larry Bird elbowing a guy in the face and, bloodying his nose on the court and not a damn whistle is blown. But now it's anything.
You may be laying in 90s, you may be laying on the court bleeding.
Yeah.
And they're going to stop the play now. Oh, no. But back then, you may bleed there until the next stoppage of play, and then they're just going to sit you on a sideline and wipe the blood up, and that's it.
Yep.
It's the last you hear about it. But he's right back out there playing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that guy's, he's getting tested, and he's going through concussion protocol, and
it's ridiculous. I mean, of course, if you get a head injury, you should go through concussion protocol for sure. But
what are those things we had in football that the running backs had to run through? We called them donkey dicks, but I don't know really what the name of.
That's the only thing I remember them call them. Right?
Yeah, it's like they were on springs and they looked like great big dildos that the running backs had to fight their way through.
Yeah. Back
in the day when like Michael Jordan would drive the lane against the Knicks or the Detroit Pistons, that's what it was, or any team really. That's what he was fighting, and he still scored.
Yeah.
That would put LeBron James in the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, based off his dramatics when he does, get fouled.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, I mean, it would. I mean, there is no way LeBron could survive in the 90s games at his current state. Now, he's big enough and bulky enough that he could, but his mentality couldn't. His pride wouldn't.
Well, see, where the NBA went wrong is they focused so hard on Jordan that he essentially made scoring look easy. So every kid out there, all they ever want to do was score. Nobody ever learned defense or ever played defense. Yep. And the game shifted away to essentially every single game was an all-star type game where it's just nothing but scoring. And really nobody, I mean, people show up at the game 20,000 strong. Maybe I wish look up the attendance, but because it's a show. But, I mean, is it really a good product anymore? I mean, does anybody really watch it and say, man, this is some great basketball? I mean, Kobe was like the last good defenseman.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the NBA finals are usually worth watching, but it's not like something I schedule around. Like, man, I got to go home and watch the NBA finals.
I'm the same with the NFL. I mean, it's just boring to me. I mean, I'll watch college ball all day, but I just can't get into professional sports anymore because it just seems so watered down.
I'm the direct opposite when it comes to football. College is the 75 to 68 final games, and the rules are so ridiculous, and the transfer portals and paying them and not paying them and all this nonsense. I can't. It is just awful to me anymore.
Yeah, the NCAA
I can watch college basketball. The tournament's still really fun because college basketball is that one sport where there really is,
And I think that with college basketball, which I got into it a little bit this past year, I realized kind of you really spend a month. March Madness is really awesome because there's always going to be those surprise teams that really play good basketball.
Yeah.
And you just and it's fun to watch them make their way through. And you've got these, and it's not always the best team's going to win. That's what I like about it.
Well,
it's brutal.
Well, the thing about basketball is the one and done has essentially allowed these mid-tier teams and lesser-known schools, it's become an equalizer. So all the one-and-dones want to go to the Dukes and Carolinas and Kentuckys of the world, fine, and they're going to be strong every single year. But if you can be one of these mid-level teams that puts together a program that has guys that stay there for 4 years, know how to play each other, they're going to jump up and beat those one-and-done teams in the tournament because it's all about one game at that point in time. And
because their juniors and seniors are quality basketball players.
Exactly.
They've went through the ringer.
Yep.
They've done their time, and they're going up against these freshmen at Duke, for example, great basketball players, skilled basketball players, but they don't have the experience.
Nope. They don't know what it's like to be in crunch time year after year. So, your Wichita State to the world, or your Virginia Techs, or, even Gonzaga's for the longest time, you just struggle and struggle year after year. You build and build. And
then you have every couple of years, every 6 or 8 years, you have that strong team that makes a run in it in college basketball, and it just makes it really cool. You don't get that with college football. It's basically Alabama's going to win, and let's see what else happens.
Yeah,
it really is a competition for second. I mean, Alabama occasionally doesn't win, but it does somewhat seem like it's all to who's going to beat Alabama in the end.
Every year, or Clemson.
Or Clemson. I'd rather Clemson. I don't know why. I mean, because of South Carolina, I like their entrance. I think there's some cool things about Clemson, but I mean, it goes back to the same thing.
Yeah.
And NBA's watered down with candy asses. What the hell,
Well, while we're on the subject of the pussification of America, this is a good opportunity to segue over to something that Kyle is actually famous here lately. Since the last time we've had him on the program, he's become kind of a pseudo internet star and basically food creator. You know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
Bodine, have you paid any attention to the Franklin County Distillery's Trump Burger here lately on the internet?
Oh, I have not. The Cheetos dust.
Yes.
Yeah.
They went back and changed the recipe off of Kyle. I mean, that thing got like 300 likes or something like that. I mean, it was all in jest and sarcasm. You probably had people on both sides of the aisle cussing you over it.
Nobody cussed me, but I was really surprised. I was shocked because the next time, like I posted it and I went back to it and looked at it, and it had like 92 likes and like 50 some comments or something. Like, what is going on? I didn't realize that it had gone viral. I was looking like people were commenting from, all over the country, and they're mostly liberals agreeing with it. I maybe saw, or not agreeing, but they were putting their 2 cents in, and it was a joke. I just posted to be funny.
I think I don't think the burger was a joke, but it was kind of the same intent to just kind of drum up business with a little something, a little controversial.
And I will say that was not my joke. I stole that from
Why?
Patton Oswalt. He said something about Cheeto dust. I can't remember the exact joke.
Well, no, it's still your joke, though, because you thought of it and applied it to the burger.
Yeah, to your context, you know what I mean? Like, I've heard Cheeto dust from a lot of people over a lot of things. Like, it just happened to be for that specific
No,
post.
that's yours, Kyle.
It was your time and it was, and
they came back with a Biden burger.
I know, and to be fair, somebody did say something to me in a private message, and I cannot remember who it was, but they said something to me, and I said, to be fair, if they posted a Biden burger, I would have said it needs to be sprinkled with dementia.
Yeah, I think it was
and old wrinkled slices of bologna flaps.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
You gotta put them sunglasses on when you say, "Come on, man."
So, if nobody knows what we're talking about, Franklin County Distilleries here in Boone's Mill. I've been in there a handful of times. They have a bison burger, and it's the only place in Franklin County you can get a bison burger, and it is 100% delicious. The rest of their food I've had in there from time to time has always been pretty good. I really honestly have never tried their drinks because every time I go in there, it's also the only place that has Full Nelson from Blue Mountain Barrel House up in Nelson County. So I always get that on tap. But their burgers are fantastic. So they came out with a new burger, a Trump burger. I guess. And they posted it. Next thing you know, everybody and their cousins posting on it and losing their mind. And Kyle and Jess posted on their Facebook page, you should add the Cheeto dust or something. I guess they came back with another version that added Cheeto dust to it. And I swear, now that I think about it, this Trump burger thing has Whitey Taylor written all over it.
I thought the same thing, Billy.
Yeah,
I really
Whitey
did.
Taylor written all over it. He's just across the street there. He's got people coming in and out all the time from all over this place coming to that Trump store. Well, if you come to the Trump store to take pictures, buy a couple hats, we'll go across the street and get you a Trump burger.
Yeah,
You know
polish
what
it off with some Trump ice cream.
Exactly.
Yeah, literally. It's like, I think the town is just kind of capitalizing on it. I mean, it's always said Trump Town on the
I
side.
know,
And
it's
great.
funny, man.
And that's awesome. Anybody that wants to come to the area and spend money, I don't mind. Come on, and it's a gimmick. It's fun,
Yeah.
And it's fair, and it's fair game.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't like it, you want to open a Biden store, do it right across the street. In fact,
Yeah, that
do
would
it
be
before
awesome.
Whitey does, or find the guy.
I've been saying that all along. Just and
Or if there's a big Democrat that comes along, Whitey will probably capitalize on him. He probably
White-
already does in that store. He just has like
If Whitey-
his own special section for Democrat T-shirts. So they're
if Whitey Taylor could make $1 off of Joe Biden, he would.
Yeah, he would.
I mean, that's just nonsense to believe otherwise. If
oh,
he's seen
everybody
it-
should.
If he figured out how to make $1 off of Donald Trump, I support the man's business. It looks kind of wacky going through there. I'm like, dear God,
I know.
it is tacky, but it's cool.
Is that Sheriff Frith's old?
It is.
Okay, I thought it was his old.
It was.
patrol car.
I think it got auctioned off,
Probably.
and I'm wondering if I think it was owned by a private collector, and then it kind of got auctioned, and they sold it like at auction. And then,
I also don't think he was. He might have been deputized, but I think he was a town of Boone's Mill officer.
Oh, I thought he was a sheriff.
Well,
no, it was
I think he was He might have been deputized. Maybe back then he wasn't. Recently, the town police for some reason got deputized. I'm not really sure, but back then I'm pretty sure he was a town of Boone's Mill police. And if I'm
believe so.
mistaken, he was probably the vice mayor too, and probably on 3 other positions.
It was. He was something to do. He was something to do with the waterworks and stuff. So we're something like that.
He just ran the whole town.
Yeah,
He did. He was. I mean, he.
He's
did.
kind of like that guy in the Vacation movie. He pulls out and he charges him $500 for the tires in the desert. He's like, "What will your sheriff think about
Yeah,
this?"
that's
Practice
right.
whips out his billfold.
Oh, this episode of Andy Griffith. Remember Andy Griffith pulled over that car and they was opposing the ticket, and he brought him into the court, into the police station there, and it says sheriff on the tag, and he says, "Well, I want to speak to the magistrate." Andy flips the thing around and it says magistrate on it.
Oh, it's still like that today. Like out in Texas, Amos's buddy lives out there, and he's the judge of the town or something. And they all just pretty much take turns being judge and sheriff and stuff. They're all a bunch of ranchers, and their ranches are bigger than the size of Franklin County. It takes them 2 hours to get back to the seat of their county where they do their business just from their ranches, because it's kind of close to I-10 out there. That kind of world still does exist.
And I think it's kind of cool I'd love to go through that one of those towns just to see. Just don't speed in it.
Well, they're not really a town. It's just definitely don't speed.
It's wild to me that back in the the old West, that anybody in the town, like in the towns, could be deputized if they needed somebody.
They can still do that today.
Oh, and
Anywhere.
oh,
Don't you remember back in 2020, right before air raids, they had the gun marches or whatever here in Virginia with Northam and all that stuff in January for Gun Day. Like 25,000 people showed up to protest, and there was, at the time, they were talking about coming in and stripping all these gun rights away and all this kind of nonsense. And a sheriff somewhere in Virginia said, "I will deputize every single citizen in this town." And it's legal, and he can't do it. So if Sheriff Overton wanted to come and deputize every one of us, he could. It's still not a...
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was still.
I think I remember that. It was faded in my memory, but I believe that's...
Oh, yeah, that's definitely the case. I mean, the sheriff's a very powerful individual. Very powerful. I mean, he's definitely the most, the the highest ranking pretty much in Franklin County individual. You know, we've had these conversations on here before and stuff, and the same with a lot of places. But in Roanoke City, they're just they do a lot of processing and stuff, and they're head over the jail. But they don't have the patrols like we have here in Franklin.
Yeah. I will say there's a huge increase in police presence in Roanoke here recently, and I think they said something in the news about it, and I can't remember why or what the reason was. I guess maybe they've hired more officers on, but but with all the shootings that are going on in Roanoke now, I'm sure they had to.
Do you really think there's an increase in shootings or an increase in coverage?
No, the shootings are reported. It's an increase in shooting because there's been a decrease in law enforcement in those areas. So there's, the more lawless it gets, the more brazen people get. And I mean, contrary to what Law and Order and CSI and all these cop shows will lead you to believe, most crimes go unsolved. They can't, figure
unfortunately.
Yeah. They simply don't care most of the time.
We were playing at Village Grill over in the Grandin area a few years ago, and we were outside, and all of a sudden we saw about 5 police cars go flying up Memorial. I can't remember what the street name was, but it's up like past the theater and on up the hill there. But we found out in less than an hour that some 16-year-old kid, some people walked into these people's house, shot a 16-year-old kid, killed him. But and this was like a block over from my drummer's house too. So, and he lives in his neighborhood is nice. It's
affluent.
It's ridiculous. I mean, people are just
bold,
losing their minds these days. Anyway, on top of that, they're just.
It don't. I mean, I like to. It normally doesn't happen in Franklin County. I mean, we do have our occasional shooting, but it's always somebody without a gun that gets shot. Unfortunately, they have no chance to defend themselves.
Yeah,
that's what happened to my cousin.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's just. I don't know. I've noticed a police presence in Roanoke too, greater, at least doing the patrols for speeding down 581 every single day. They're, the state troopers are there heavy here lately. I don't know. I guess they're trying to make up for lost time through COVID. Getting those funds back up.
When you used to go through Clearbrook and somebody would pass you in the left lane digging, you'd be like, "Hey, you got something coming for you, buddy."
Yep.
It pisses me off because when they speed now, they're speeding and they never get caught. I'm like,
every time I'm going through and somebody zips by me going at least 20 miles over the speed limit, I'm like, oh yeah, get him. He's gonna get it, but nope, not a cop in sight.
Very rare. Yeah, every day I drive to Roanoke every day, and I'm one of those speeders. I'll be running, 60 miles an hour in the 45 there in Roanoke, or I'll be running 65 in a 55 or something. And there will be people that blow by me running like 75 or something. I'm like, all right, that's maybe a little too much, but good luck, There's been a couple of times I've actually, I watched one dude from New Jersey, and I was like, hey, gonna get you or whatever. And then he goes up there and he blows right by a cop. And the cop doesn't do anything at all, whatever, just follows him for the longest time. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? And finally get right there before they started pulling into city territory, flipped the lights on and pulled them over. I was like, well.
Some karma. But a lot of that goes back to Governor Northram. Because, all these secondary offenses went away. Like, for example, me and Scott were talking about tint where I got my window tinted in my car. You can't pull somebody over for window tint anymore. You used to, you can be ticketed for it, but they got to pull you over for something else. Well, now it's harder to find a primary offense and then being able to prove it.
That's one of the things I'll actually applaud that fraud for is doing away with a lot of that stuff. Like, I don't think you should be targeted by anybody because your windows might be tinted or because you might have a loud exhaust or a sticker.
Yeah.
Like, cops shouldn't be able to have carte blanche opportunity. And that's what it's all about. Just give them a reason to pull you over and screw with you. That way they can decide whether they want to extort a little bit of money off of you or a lot of money out of you.
I want them people catching reckless drivers and people speeding, driving drunk. I don't really care that the guy's beside me with 1% with limo tint on his windows.
Right, and then they have these sobriety checks just giving out tickets left and right for every little thing, just nickel and diming people.
Oh yeah, unconstitutional as hell.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, it's extortion. But, like that's why I don't know. Not gonna go into the whole.
Yeah, let's not get into the politics of it. We're just talking general conversation of interesting facts.
Yeah, and I mean,
or observations, local observations.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of local observations, does anybody know what today is?
Today is Monday.
Anybody want to go more specific than that?
June 6th.
June 6th.
Awesome. We're getting places. Anything else?
2022.
It is.
Right on, Kyle. Today's June 6th, 2022.
June 6th doesn't ring a bell for anybody.
It's the day after my ex-wife's birthday.
That's what I was going for right there.
Nailed it, Kyle.
I'm glad you remembered because I didn't.
Nailed it, Kyle.
Well, June 6th would be the day that we stormed the beaches of Normandy.
Oh, yeah.
You
Okay.
know, being the Appalachian podcast, we'd be remiss without mentioning the Bedford boys, who were some of Appalachian.
Absolutely,
Right.
yes.
Yeah. I saw that photo you posted today, actually. I just
For all
slipped
those
my
out there who
mind.
listen, apologies. I screwed up. Should have known that.
I mean, it's.
I buried myself in an office and I listened to phones ring all day, so I didn't quite catch up on that. My apologies.
I mean, it's just what a fantastic. Thank you what you want about about the war or whatever, but
The greatest generation of all time for
these
a
guys
reason.
were the first ones on the beaches. The first ones, running after those machine gun nests, all from Bedford, Virginia.
Yep. And I've heard from a lot of people say that Saving Private Ryan is one of the best reenactments of that. They say it is a very highly historically accurate in how the setup happened reenactments. And watching that's one of those things with loud music, loud sound, and seeing it in a movie theater really amplifies because you can hear the bullets zizzing through the water. The first place I watched that was Sean Norton. Remember, he had that in his parents' basement. He had that big sound system and TV. That's where I watched it, and I'm like, oh my God, that sound system was incredible. And it was like shaking the walls.
That movie, I think, as far as war movies go, that was a first of its kind. And then after that came out, the Band of Brothers series that Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg put out on HBO, and that
Phenomenal.
Oh God, I watch it once a year. It's still to this day it holds up.
I always heard that a lot of World War II vets went and saw that movie, and they ended up having to walk out of the theaters in the opening scene. Then again,
I could see that.
I mean, I could see that. Then again, looking back at all the mindless propaganda to throw away, that could easily just been rumors started by the movie companies to make it seem like it was so real. You just have to go see it. That it's
For
scary.
sure.
Either way, but it seemed pretty realistic to me.
Oh yeah.
Based off of the stories and the photos and things like that.
Well, when I see people that's actually having PTSD and that type of stuff, I can believe it. I can believe it happens. Now, whether that movie triggered it or not, this might be something we have to cut out, and that's okay. Do you remember when we were kids and we had that Cub Scout leader? Weren't you with me in Franklin Heights?
Blue.
You remember?
Blue.
Yeah. Have no idea I don't remember the guy's name. But the guy had been at Vietnam, and we're a bunch of middle schoolers.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about two different kinds of Cub Scout leaders because we had another one as well.
The one that weren't you in or Weeblos? I don't remember which one it was. This was like our first meeting, and this person is talking about Vietnam to us, to like middle school or late elementary school kids, about being in cages and rats nibbling on your nuts and stuff like that.
That ain't me. I was not part. No, I don't remember this one.
Okay, it might have been the wrong person. We can cut that shit out if you want.
No, I definitely want to go further into this. What happened?
I remember he was this person. I don't remember if it was he or she. I honestly don't know. I assume it was he. I remember there being a woman involved in some of it, but that was the last time we ever seen this person.
Okay, I think you're somehow mixing it up because I do remember there was a woman scout leader because nobody else took the job or whatever, so she took it. We went over to her house. And I don't know. She might have made the comment something to the nature of somebody messes with my son or something, I'll cut their balls off. Or maybe he said that about her ex-husband or something. I don't know. And then next thing you know, that was the last meeting we ever had. I don't remember a Vietnam guy. Maybe her husband, and maybe that's the part
It could
you
have been the
remember.
woman. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I wasn't touched or anything.
yeah. Okay.
They didn't touch me in my special place.
Either way, that
Maybe she was a man until the rat chewed her nuts off.
I don't know. Either way, she was kind of crazy, and we had one scout meeting, and that was.
I think it's the same one we're thinking about. Gotta be. I just remembering some of the details.
You could be remembering another story, and it's all kind of blending in, and that's kind of why I enjoyed this episode tonight. I know we had Jared planning on coming to talk music and stuff. We can always talk music with Kyle, but Kyle was there with us, during the '90s and stuff. And I think back to that time period, and God Almighty, like 30 years ago, Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer were the hot tickets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think JD Sutphin, he's been on here before. He just went to some Comic-Con somewhere, and Vanilla Ice was there. And
I saw that.
He got on stage and did the Ninja Rap song with 4 guys in the Ninja Turtle costumes.
Do y'all know the story with Suge Knight and Vanilla Ice?
Yes.
That was phenomenal.
I do not.
Suge Knight went to Vanilla. What he wanted one of his songs, didn't he? He wanted the rights.
One of somebody that Suge knew or was connected with Suge, or Suge had come up and talked to. Basically, Suge come to find out that he wrote one of these songs that Vanilla Ice made hot, and he wasn't getting any royalties off of it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So Suge paid Vanilla Ice a visit, and if I ain't mistaken, didn't he pretty much his dudes hung him over the rail of like a 13th, 14th story balcony or something?
Yeah, and he denies it too. Suge Knight denied it in an interview, I think.
Wait a minute. Was that depicted in the movie?
It's been depicted in a lot of movies because it's a fairly common gangster
The
tactic.
movie with the Straight Outta Compton.
I think it was.
But I don't think it was Vanilla Ice that. No, I don't think he did that to somebody in that movie. But I don't think was it Vanilla Ice.
Well, it could have been Vanilla Ice, but considering Vanilla Ice is a trademark, it's possible they had to make it something else and say it, considering it been controversial.
That movie was pretty straightforward with all the names. I mean, it was all they weren't sugarcoating the names in that movie.
No, and I think they may have. We'll have to look it up, but I remember seeing it in a movie. If it was in that one, it had to have been Vanilla Ice because it's such a
widely known
notorious
story.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff from back in was wild. I mean,
Well, I believe it. No offense to Vanilla Ice, but those guys with that bunch, they were hardcore. I mean, they were serious business. I ain't messing with them.
I mean, most of them were gangsters. I mean, most of them were either Bloods or Crips.
And real honest to goodness gangsters.
Yeah.
what the hell is an honest to goodness gangster?
Just like,
One of them OG.
yeah, OG.
Yeah.
An OG.
Well, I don't know. That's once again all about perspective because some people would say an OG gangster is, somebody like one of the families in New Jersey or New
fair
York, somebody
enough.
that takes care of their entire community and, just, takes out the trash and plays, racquetball with the law all the time. One of those people.
All while wearing a suit.
Everything we do. And this is why I get so irritated that people getting so mad at people all over the country about shit that don't matter. What works in New York doesn't work in Birmingham, and it doesn't work in Miami, and it doesn't work in Franklin County. Like what you might consider a thug gangster, the other person might consider a patron hero or whatever. It's
interesting you think about those gangs back then. They were kind of, I mean, I don't know that a lot of them, they did a lot of bad stuff, don't get me wrong, but they watched out for their own families and everybody. When you were in that part of that circle and you were in that bond of trust, you were, they watched out for you in the community, as Billy says. It don't mean it was right on how things went about, but it went down.
Yeah, and I actually I just finished The Sopranos for the first time.
One of my favorite series of all time.
Man, so good, and I watched the Many Saints of Newark after that. And James Gandolfini's son, he looks just like him, and he played a young Tony, and he was perfect. James
Gandolfini was the perfect actor for that position. There's nobody on this planet that I can think of that could have played that position better as Tony Soprano. And the thing of it was, Tony Soprano, his character could go off a bunch of people and grind them up into dog food, and then go home and eat a tray of baked ziti and drink a glass of scotch.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I mean, it was so cool.
I love that they humanized him in that, like, every time he walked in the door, he opened the fridge to look for something to eat, because we all do that.
Yeah, small stuff like that you don't think about.
He was always eating freaking baked ziti and drinking scotch. That was his thing.
Yeah, watching The Sopranos actually makes me hungry every single time.
Absolutely. I thought it was just me.
Man.
Because it was always some Italian pasta or some dish. They was always eating at that one place.
Always. If it wasn't baked ziti, it was macaroni, or it was, I don't know, they were talking about the whatever kind of pasta and the gravy. They called the sauce gravy.
It's Alfredo. I think they call Alfredo gravy.
I think they call any of the sauce gravy.
Maybe so.
Alfredo, whatever. But, man, what a great, I think that and...
When James Gandolfini, like his character, would be eating and he's looking up while he's eating, you always knew somebody getting ready to get clapped. I was like, uh-oh, we're getting ready to see somebody get a cat busted in their ass. And the entrance, the video, the music intro is so synonymous. I love, like, if you're going to work and you're just pissed off, that's just like the perfect song to play. It's like, I don't want to be at this summit today. Let's throw on the damn intro to the Sopranos.
No, so good.
Well, yeah, I mean, go back to the '90s, and you talk about Suge Knight and gangsters, I guess, and I mean, while we go through the Tupac and Biggie stuff, and it's we were kids back then going through all this kind of stuff, and we are so far along that stuff is classic and ancient now.
I know.
And there is no way to relate any of that lifestyle to anybody today. I mean, it's just how weird is it to where the old guys now that screaming at kids to get off our lawn,
Yeah, it seems like all that stuff happened like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Still, I mean...
Yeah, it's still fresh in your memory.
Yeah.
I wonder if I'm part of that just because it's so accessible. Like, you can go Google or YouTube Tupac right now and watch 100 videos on him, and it's just like he's right there again.
Yeah.
The mystery isn't there anymore. There's no context, and there's no way for us to be able to put time against anything because time never stops because there's constant reminders about it. It always seems like Earnhardt just died yesterday because everybody always talks about Earnhardt still to this day. Yeah. Elvis, even until Elvis finally died, honestly, when the internet came about.
Yeah.
It really did. Like, finally, people stopped talking about Elvis or seeing Elvis sightings, and those people just kind of, probably the last of the Elvis generation ever got on the internet. So the internet killed Elvis. His memory can finally be mourned and gone, but when it's always in your face, it kind of seems like it is just yesterday.
Yeah. And we were just talking about Tom Hanks. He's in that new Elvis Presley movie, and that looks awesome.
And in one of our chats, I did bring up a controversy. I know the answer to this. I was just bringing it up as a reasonable debate because Tom Hanks plays in it. Tom Hanks, one of the greatest actors of all time. And I said, on the grand scheme of things, kind of, who is greater, Elvis or Tom Hanks?
I would say...
Greater. No, I mean, the question was presented as essentially who is bigger, Elvis or Tom Hanks.
Oh, as far bigger, I would say.
But is it
bigger? I would say Elvis for sure.
I would say it is Elvis too. But I thought it was a good comparison because Tom Hanks is pretty big. Can you measure? It's hard to compare, but net worth and stuff is the only way part of it. I mean, Tom Hanks is worth a hell of a lot more money, even adjusted for inflation. But Elvis has been dead since when?
77.
77, and he's still making millions. Dale Earnhardt, been dead since 2001, still making millions. Yeah. When Tom Hanks dies, is he still going to make millions?
No, he's just a movie star. He has no brand. Elvis was a brand. Elvis,
and that's where I kind of went with that.
Nobody, people listen to music for the rest of their life. Not everybody will sit there and just watch the same movies over and over again, you might watch Forrest Gump once every couple years, but you're not going to watch it every week for the rest of your life. You're going to listen to Elvis. And
I don't know how royalties are handed out from movies like they do music. And Elvis
but let's
is
also think Tom Hanks is just a great actor. He is in the same realm as Denzel Washington or Will Smith.
Fair
or
point.
Any of these people,
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, they are a dime a dozen. In Elvis's heyday, he was in just as many movies, and everybody in the country went out and saw his movies. And he was, oh, by the way, writing #1 albums and songs and performing everywhere. And he was writing Christmas albums that were going #1.
Yeah, he was in
And
movies.
movies that were #1. Like just as many movies as Tom Hanks, and just as many people come out to watch it.
But I think that's a good debate. I think it
I
changes
would
your
have not
perspective.
used Tom Hanks. There has got to be somebody else out there.
The Beatles.
Well, no, I was using longevity. No, the best comparison to me to Elvis would be Garth Brooks
Or Michael Jackson.
or Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
I forget about Michael Jackson.
I had a chance to go see Paul McCartney 2 weeks ago.
The Beatles as a whole, maybe.
What's that?
The Beatles as a whole.
Oh, the Beatles
Yes.
as a whole, for
Yeah,
sure.
I don't
for
individually, nah.
sure. But I had a chance to go see him. My old drummer, Jason Brannon, called me and said his dad had an extra ticket. He gave me the seat number and everything, and it was right beside the stage down in Winston-Salem. And he said, yeah, Dad paid $350 a piece for him. He said, but I think he'd probably give you a deal. There aren't many people that I would pay that much money to go see, but Paul McCartney, I would have. But I was playing 2 gigs that weekend, and I was going to make more money than I was going to spend on that ticket. So I
would have canceled the gigs.
I worked.
Or do you believe that is actually Paul McCartney?
That's a good question, too. I know there's a big conspiracy about that, and I don't know.
There is quite a bit. I mean, that is one of the biggest.
So can you compare Elvis to Garth Brooks or Michael Jackson?
No, because Elvis was every bit as good, if not better than them, as far as #1 hits and record sales and album sales. But, and at the same time, he had multiple movies. None of them guys have multiple movies. Things like that. Like Elvis was everything.
He was.
Fair
and
point.
I will say this, though. I think, and I truly believe this, and some people might disagree with me, but I think he did appropriate black culture with a lot of his music, and he took a lot of songs written by black singer-songwriters and made a ton of money. And I don't think a lot of those royalties were
Probably ever
paid back.
That's everywhere. I mean, honestly, everybody calls Elvis the king of rock and roll, but Chuck Berry's really the
Chuck Berry, Little Richard.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck would be my. I mean, he's pretty much the guy who invented rock.
I just
and roll.
thought it was an interesting perspective to put things into perspective, and I think for our generation, we need to ask these questions to make sure we keep things in perspective. Because I don't disagree that Elvis is probably bigger and greater, but I want to compare them and just to make sure I've got the right perspective and mind frame, if that makes sense.
What I think is interesting is like he toured with Johnny Cash and Jerry Lee Lewis and all the
Dewey Cox.
What's that? Dewey Cox.
Dewey Cox, yeah.
What's that one song? Let's Do It.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, and
But
also
At night I dream of you blowing me kisses.
But I think
that whole. I mean, I'm not big on the musical, but that kind of was like a musical comedy that it's with the test of time. That's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, and I love what's his name from SNL.
You don't want none of this shit.
Yeah, you don't want
Tim Meadows.
He said, "Will I get addicted to it? It's non-habit forming."
Like, well, I kind of don't want to have a bunch of wilds that say make sex better. He's like, well, I don't want to have a hangover. There is no hangover. He's like, well, sounds good and expensive. It's the cheapest shit there is. He's like, you don't want none of this shit, man.
I think I do.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you were comparing singers, those would be. You could also throw Pink Floyd, the group, into that probably.
Well, when you're talking about singers, you have to.
But I see you're saying it's a bigger picture than just
singers. You've got entertainers. Like Michael Jackson was an entertainer.
He was
a
an
great
entertainer
singer too, but he was a great entertainer.
He was a better entertainer.
Elvis was a great entertainer. But there are other people out there that are just great singers. That
And Garth
like
Brooks,
Robert Plant was a great entertainer and a great singer.
Oh yeah.
Garth Brooks definitely capitalized on that era of country music. Like when you watch the video, that live performance of Call in Baton Rouge, like that sends chill bumps through you to see you're doing that to that stadium.
Yeah. And one thing I love about Garth Brooks is he always, like, you had other country stars at the time, they were charging, 60, $70 per ticket. Garth was still out there touring, charging like 18 to $20 a ticket. He didn't want to screw people. He just wanted his fans out there. And that's one thing I always respected about him, is that he's always cared about his fans.
And this guy can step out on stage and that 100,000 people and the lights, the cameras, and just that roar over Calling Baton Rouge. It's an awesome song.
It is.
And that video, it just personifies. It's like, wow. Could you imagine the feeling it give you on the inside?
Oh God, yeah.
The euphoria. I couldn't imagine a better drug.
It is amazing. Like I hadn't played in front of, thousands of people, but I'll say the night that we opened down here at the Harvester, I think it was close to sold out. It was a packed house, and going in there and all those people sitting there and everybody was silent, and they didn't have their ABC license yet. So everybody was sober, and usually it's...
Hold on. Now you're making presumptions about Franklin County.
Well,
if you think there weren't people
sorry.
binge drinking in the parking lot, then you have no faith in this town.
People were not... Well, I won't say people weren't drinking in,
Who knows what other substances they might have indulged in ahead of time.
That's true, because I know myself, I've gone into movie theaters with airplane bottles tucked into my socks, stuff like that.
Facts.
And
The one in Blacksburg has a full bar.
That's nice. Yeah, going back to the feeling that you get, like when I walked out, I haven't been nervous at a show since I first started playing, which was back in 2007. We started gigging out, and my knees were weak going out there in front of all those people and it just being so quiet. In bars and stuff, people were drinking, kind of paying attention, kind of not, but all the focus was on me and Justin. And man, it was awesome. And then, like, after the first song, like, it was just a huge roar of, applause and clapping and stuff. And so I can't imagine playing in front of thousands of people.
And here's another one. Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr., when they would take the lead at Daytona and Talladega, you could hear the crowd over 43 race cars. That's something. Like an Dale Earnhardt Jr. could make a pass for 10th, and the crowd would start standing and cheering. When that bastard would take the lead, boy, Talladega almost ripped its to its core. That year that Jimmy Johnson and him wrecked on a backstretch because of Brian Vickers, they almost tore the place down. They had to get security to get Brian Vickers out of that place. Dang. He almost lost his life that day to a mob. And he knows it. You ask him. I would love to him to be on the download one day and tell that story, because they almost killed Kyle Busch for the same thing in Richmond. They escorted Kyle Busch out of Richmond when he wrecked Junior on almost 5 to go. He wrecked Junior going into one when Junior was leading. Man. That's the type of passion from these people. And when you think greats, can Tom Hanks do that? No, he can't.
Tom Hanks isn't larger than life. Dale Earnhardt is larger than life. And I think there are certain moments as well that may either propel you to larger than life, or maybe just that. And there are certain performances like Garth Brooks at Central Park. that's all the energy.
Those people related to him.
That energy that place had, and the energy, like when you can feel the energy in a CD that's recorded later. I think. When it comes to musical acts or whatever, when you come to one of those larger than life moments that maybe propelled them into the stratosphere of musical geniuses, might have been Queen at Live Aid. That performance.
Yeah.
Everybody knew who Queen was, and they were big and they were massive. But to come back together in front of all those fans, in front of the entire world, it kind of almost re-cemented them. And that performance, the energy was going through that place that you could see on TV. And
another good one would be Pompeii when the Pink Floyd. I can't remember if it was David Gilmour or Roger Waters that did it. Pompeii is a great example. I think I really would put Pink Floyd up there as larger than life in some ways. It's not if not on the level of them, But a Pink Floyd really has a huge following like that.
They do. They have a huge following, and I mean bands like Pink Floyd, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles.
The
I mean, they're
Beatles,
all iconic.
I'd say the Beatles are definitely larger.
Yeah, but but when we're talking about certain moments. I mean, I guess the Beatles when they played. What did they play at that one time from the rooftop of a building?
Oh yeah, the rooftop.
I mean, you might be able to talk about that as being a crazy, but
it's iconic.
But it's iconic for cultural reasons because you couldn't even actually hear the music down below. They could have been farting into the microphones. The women screaming was so loud they couldn't hear anything at all. No. So I mean, yeah, it's iconic, but was it just a energized performance like Queen put on, or like Garth Brooks put on, or like Elvis probably put on a time or two, or Michael Jackson? You know, just some of those performances where you get out there and something else just takes over.
Or Michael Jordan in Game 1 of the 1992 NBA playoffs.
Yeah. That kind of energy, man, it's hard to duplicate. There has to be so many different things that go just right with the right people or the right person for that kind of stuff to happen. And just recently, and they're not even that big, but the funk jam band Wolfpack, when a couple years ago they recorded a live album at Madison Square Garden, sold out, completely sold out, and they had the entire place singing in 3-part harmonies, and it was, I mean, you could hear it over the band. And if you get a chance to check it out, just look up Wolfpack, Madison Square Garden.
I think these are great conversations that people need to have because we can have them and not disagree. And when you think about these people larger than life, you still go back to Elvis probably still being the biggest. I mean, you really can't get away from that.
No, I don't.
And I think it's a lot of what Billy says is his culture reaches past music into the movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
Well, but his culture
Folklore.
is dying as well. Like he has become a relic at this point in time. We're so far away, and all of his diehard fans, no longer there. So it begs the question: who is next up to bat? Who is that?
Is it moving to folklore with Elvis? Maybe
it is, like it does with everybody else.
Who's next?
Who?
God.
Okay, and some people, and honestly, probably our fan base might not agree with this as much. But when it comes to like popularity, how iconic they are, the different things they have their hands into, how noticeable they are as a entertainer, I'd say right now the biggest on the planet would probably have to be Jay-Z.
That's fair.
I mean. Who
when
else,
you're talking
who
about the
else
actual, well, we're talking about real life conversation, not a certain person's taste that's categorized this area.
I'm just talking about the biggest.
Agree.
I'm talking about the biggest thing out there. Just because I don't pay attention to it,
and he is longevity. Well, Jay-Z has longevity. He's been there since we were in high school too.
So so everything he's done and all the things he's produced, and I'm pretty sure he's got a sports agency out there that represents athletes and things like that. Like,
wasn't he the guy?
If you're talking about big being a brand, then I mean, who can argue against Jay-Z?
Is that? Didn't he do Hard Knock Life?
Yes.
We was walking around the locker rooms in football. Everybody's singing, "It's the Hard Knock Life for us." Yeah.
That was his old stuff. He's in 99 Problems. And
These are 90. This is in 98.
Yeah. I don't even think he's still performing. Is he still coming out with songs or anything, or he just produce?
I don't think he's doing anything as far as I know. I think the last thing he put out was that OJ song. I don't know if there was an album behind that, if it was just a single. Can't remember the name.
But but it is a cool conversation. Who takes over for Elvis? Because eventually it's going to become folklore, and Elvis is.
Well, Michael Jackson took over for Elvis not long after.
Yeah,
and then Michael Jackson died about 15 years ago, and it really. Nobody has. I mean, people used to camp outside of Michael Jackson's house for weeks and weeks and weeks just to get a glimpse of him.
Yeah, just to see him.
Just to get a glimpse of him. That's probably bigger than Elvis. Because if you think about all Michael Jackson has his hands in, maybe Elvis is. I mean, Michael Jackson owns the freaking Beatles, right? Michael Jackson owned the rights to all the Beatles music.
Shit, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, Elvis has still got people touring his house.
That's true. But the thing is, like, if you had an Elvis coming up right now, it would be like I don't know, it'd be like a Chris Stapleton, Chris Stapleton's not. He's not Elvis. He doesn't have his name, showing up in lights and shit like that. And he doesn't have his, a symbol of him dancing as his logo and stuff like that. And Chris Stapleton's big, he's big voice, big music, great songwriter.
Performer. I mean, he's a good entertainer.
Yeah. I don't know if he moves like Elvis, but...
Nobody moves like Elvis.
Well, how about this?
Or Michael Jackson.
There's never going to be another Elvis. There's never going to be... I mean, I guess you can have somebody that is as close to it, but back then when you only have 5 radio stations and you only have 3 TV stations and you don't have any internet and you only have 1 newspaper for your area and maybe you get what you get. So everybody knows who these people are because there's only so much room to go around. These days with the internet and 155 channels, there's so many people out there that are selling out shows more and more often than Elvis ever could, and we've never even heard of them.
Yeah.
When you look at like the next of something, and you may agree with this, Billy, because you were a big Kobe fan, but I think Kobe Bryant was the next Michael Jordan. And I think Kobe is the only one on the planet as far as basketball abilities, performance, the way he played the game, that you can compare to Michael Jordan. I don't think there's anybody. And Kobe may be better than Michael in the grand scheme of things. I don't think so, and the reason I don't think so is because Michael Jordan brought basketball to that level. Kobe kept it going.
Michael Jordan, he was the most. I would venture to say that he was the most competitive athlete I've ever seen in my lifetime. He had to win. I mean, just had to. You hear all these stories about
Fierce competitor.
Oh, he took money from Matt Chandler.
Did he really?
Yes.
Yeah, he took money from Matt Chandler. They
played golf.
they played golf. Yeah, down here at Water's Edge.
Water's Edge.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know
Yeah.
Matt Chandler and Michael Jordan played golf
I had
at Water's
no
Edge?
idea. Never heard that story.
Michael
I've
Jordan
heard a lot of
showed up-
stories about Matt Chandler, but not that one.
Michael
It was in the
Jordan
Franklin
showed
News
up
Post.
for whatever reason. He was down here, and he went down. They said, well, "Where's the nicest club at around here?" Water's Edge. Okay, who's the best golfer around here? That's who Jordan wanted to find out. So Matt Chandler, and he might have been working that day in a pro shop. I don't know, but it was like, all right, well, and then I guess they figured out what their handicap was, and of course Matt Chandler would beat Michael Jordan at golf. He just would, but Jordan's still competitive. But Matt Chandler's Matt Chandler. So I guess they played for $20, and it was a handicapped, and Jordan ended up beating him through the handicap and made Matt Chandler pay him his $20.
Can we get Matt Chandler on this show to talk about
Oh
it?
yeah, definitely. Probably
That
can.
is what we need to
get him and
do.
Bubba both on here. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
Bubba. Yeah, for sure.
We need to do that. We're missing out on an opportunity. Let's hit Matt up and bring him on. Let's talk about this.
Matt's back. I know he's got great stories. I've heard tons of stories about him, but none from him. I think he should get on here and
The last time
Tell
I
a
saw Chum was back in July at Jacob Neff's bachelor party we had down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Big old, and some they were about to get into it with some dude, Matt Chandler, and him and all them, and I ended up going in there and we got in a big fight.
So somebody, let's make some contact. You got contact with him.
Oh yeah, I hit him up. But yeah, he definitely played Michael Jordan in golf. And
I had no idea.
Jordan took his money. So you want to talk about competitive? He is competitive.
Ain't that something? Michael Jordan would be playing pinball against you and bet you.
I've heard.
It'd probably turn the machine over if he lost.
That's probably why he ended up having to lead the league for a couple years and didn't win 8 straight titles and only 6.
Realistically.
Because I think he had kind of a gambling
did.
problem and he needed to.
Could you imagine the scrutiny in modern day social media if Michael Jordan had it back then?
God, did they ever let? Speaking of gambling,
Pete
did they ever
Rose?
let Pete Rose? Yeah,
Hell no.
that is ridiculous, man. That is absolutely.
We have got to move on past that. Put the man in a Hall of Fame. and
Barry
let's-
Bonds also needs to be in the Hall of Fame. So does Mark
Yeah.
McGuire, Sammy Sosa, and Jose Canseco.
I don't care if they use steroids. They all use
They
steroids.
weren't illegal. They weren't
Right.
illegal at the time. They weren't. I mean, they lied about taking them, but they weren't illegal. It's like everybody was on them. For the most part, look, I'm sorry, and I know it's going to piss off a lot of Orioles fans out there, but Cal Ripken Jr. to play like 2,185 straight games was on something. It might not have been steroids, it might not have been hormones, but it was cocaine or something. I mean, he did not play. I mean, every day the gruel,
Lance-
the gruel in the 70s and 80s, not the gruel. I mean,
Right.
today they're on first class chartered flights and
I think
buses.
today is the anniversary of his first major league game, if I'm not mistaken.
Who's that? Cal?
Yeah.
Could be.
And you got to throw Lance Armstrong into that conversation too. Look what this friggin' man did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm tired of it. I mean, and actually, baseball now, I'm pretty sure they're not testing for steroids anymore.
They shouldn't. Screw it.
And why in the hell did our Congress waste their time investigating that anyway? Why does it matter?
Why does it matter? That is not a government thing.
Yeah, exactly. People wonder why I hate them so goddamn much is because look back at that. They investigated baseball players for steroids. If they really cared about steroids and their whole rigmarole about it was, well, it's about the kids and the safety, and we don't want this project. Then what about WWE wrestling that's on like 25 times a week? Oh, those guys are on
admittedly
roids
on roids.
Exactly. It's because you didn't want Barry Bonds breaking all the records. And it's just such a bunch of
I don't
nonsense.
care what anybody says. Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, and Barry Bonds ripped through the league hitting home runs was one of the greatest eras in baseball.
Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa brought baseball back. After the strike, they lost everything. Nobody was showing up. Nobody cared about baseball. It was dying. It was a dying sport.
Dead.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, McGwire and Sosa start ripping for the record in home runs, and everybody tuned in.
Oh, yeah, man.
And
it was
then baseball rode their backs and all
People
the way
didn't
to glory.
even watch baseball. We're into baseball suddenly.
Because I just want to see a home run.
You know, back then, people were talking about the steroid use and stuff, and I heard a lot of people say, you know, ain't no way a man's head can swell that big without using steroids. And I beg to differ because as I've grown older, I haven't taken one steroid, and this is one of the largest hats I can buy, and I'm on the last two.
Same.
They haven't taken a bit of steroid, but I got a huge head. But he did, man. His head just swelled up.
Yeah.
I
was a big fan of Mark McGwire because he was just he was almost fat. He was so big.
Yeah.
It is like, how is this man going to get a bat around? And the bat looked like a toothpick in his hand, and he'd swing it. And later on, you know, but I think Sammy Sosa was one of the funner to watch. I don't know why, but Mark McGwire, he just captivated the audience just because of I don't know why, and I can't really pick out why.
Sammy Sosa was fun to hear in interviews too. He loved getting in front of a camera. He was funny, but you know, I looked him up not too long ago. Have y'all seen him lately?
He's white.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, he is white. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was like an elective surgery he did.
Yeah.
He is
Like Michael
white.
Jackson type deal.
Right, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. It's weird as shit looking at him.
He's from Cuba, right?
Yeah, it kind of looks like, you remember the old like EA Sports baseball games. You go there and create a player, and when you're going through the different colors, like you're on one guy, and then the next guy looks the same black. That is what he looks like in his in his pictures right there. So it's kind of weird.
It's not a natural looking white either.
Not at
It's
all.
like,
No.
And it
it's
was
almost the color of the stars on that map, like almost a blue or a.
And it was
Real
iconic.
strange.
Barry Bonds hitting baseballs out into the freaking San Francisco Bay. It's
Have y'all seen guys out there in the bay on the kayaks
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff fighting over the home run balls?
Yeah, that's a great place to hang out.
This
Why not?
stuff is iconic, and we dismiss it because of steroids. And
I don't
Lance Arm,
dismiss it, but
Well, I don't
society dismisses it.
I
Unfortunately,
I do believe it's coming back, but these conversations is happening, and like you say, with baseball and the steroid testings, meh.
And you know what? I'm going to say it. This might be unpopular, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form condoning the use of drugs. But I'd probably venture to say that music was a whole lot better in the 70s when these guys were on like 4-day cocaine binges and coming up with the weirdest shit they possibly could and writing some of the best music and doing some of the best performances because they were in some kind of crazy zone. And I mean, you know, we've had conversations with Levi on here. He's like, nowadays, that's just not the case. They go in and go out. It's a business in and out. And,
Yeah.
you know, the business is really run off the backs of people like Levi who write these great songs. And these performers go in here and they got to be so cut and dry for their image and everything. Like, they get the song, they sing it, they produce, you know, they put it out there. But back then, these guys were lunatics. They would go away for weeks on end up in like, Zeppelin went to Aleister Crowley's house, I'm pretty sure, you know, for like
Yeah.
weeks on end and wrote an album or something. It's
And the
That
same
was
goes.
insane. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how. I can't even. I can't get in front of anybody and play music after more than 2 beers now. I just can't. Like, I forget lyrics. I can't imagine trying to create something like these guys did on the kinds of drugs and stuff they were using.
And if you look at baseball's schedule, it goes back to what Billy was saying, Cal Ripken. How did they go through? Baseball has the most grueling schedule in professional sports. It's one of the downsides to baseball is it almost becomes saturated over the summer. And how did they not without some sort of steroids or performance
Speed.
I mean, how do you do it?
You don't. The only way you make it is if you do something like that. It's just like in NASCAR. Those who end up stay at the top are always finding ways to get around the rules and stay relevant. In baseball or football or anything,
they're that competitive.
You have to because and that's why the whole argument of is it fair or not? Look, no, it's not fair if you're somebody who doesn't take it and somebody else does and takes you out of that job, but they're not going to stop it. So you have a decision to make for yourself. No, it's not fair, but it's the world we live in. So the majority of people are going to do it. Either you sink or swim, essentially. I mean, you have to.
So you have to bring back racing is a perfect example of that. Darrell Waltrip used this example at Nashville. Let me see who was Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip were racing for the win at Nashville, and Bobby Allison won a race, and they protested Darrell for running left side tires on the right.
Huh?
Yeah, they protested Darrell for running left side tires on the right. Joe Gazaway comes up to the car and says, "I'm gonna fine you $1,000 a tire." No, it was Bobby Allison. Darrell Waltrip won the race. Bobby Allison finished second, and he comes up to Bobby Allison and says, "I'm gonna fine you $1,000 a tire for the ones that are on the wrong side of the car." And Bobby Allison turns to Joe Gazaway and says, "Well, look at Darrell. He's running left sides on the right too." Joe Gazaway turns back to Bobby Allison and said, "We ain't looking at him. We're looking at you." The thing of it was, and Marty Robbins, when he started the race team, his only goal was to go out and pass Richard Petty. And
get photographs of it.
Yeah, and wanted photographs of it.
Yeah.
So they would, they put wax in the carburetors to make them fit the templates down in the carburetors to make sure the hole was big. So NASCAR would fit the gauge through there, fit the template. Once the engine got hot, all that wax would melt. It got bigger holes. Well, that's what they did to Marty Robbins' car. Well, Marty went out there, passed Richard Petty, and he went in and told on a NASCAR official, said, "I'm running a legal carburetor, had wax rings in it, I want to pull myself." Well, Bob, he didn't realize that every other car in the field also had the same type of carburetor on there. But that goes to show you, if you've got an advantage, everybody else is using that advantage too. Whether it be performance-enhancing drugs, whether it be a special setup on your race car, whether you're using shot in the roll bars, everything you do, everybody else is doing too. All you're doing is doing it to keep up. If somebody's found a way, that's going to continue being like that.
Yeah, and that's the long and the short of it. You're going to have to, if you want to stay ahead in life, you're always going to have to.
It pays more to win.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and it's not just in sports.
It's not.
I mean, it's in the business world as well, when it comes to tech, these tech people and all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, they do what they can. Bill Gates probably couldn't program an ice cream machine in McDonald's, honestly. Bill Gates is just a salesman. Like, he bought a system and then turned around and guaranteed to sell it to somebody else for more and just made a bunch of money. Like, Bill Gates doesn't even know what the hell he's doing with a computer. He's just a salesman.
No, he made the platform, and then it's gone way beyond his ability.
Oh, by far. I mean, they're all the same. They all just take, Einstein he was a patent clerk. He's bound to take some of these patents and counterfeit them and take them. That's just how people are. Like,
Apple takes advantage of it today.
History is littered with the things that people did to get away that you never would think about. Like, you don't think about these things. You don't think
about Kyle opening a beer with his flip flop that has a beer opener on it.
My goodness, where are we at in technology? I mean, we thought we'd have flying cars.
And Kyle's got a beer opener on his flip flop.
I just hope I didn't step in dog shit on the way in here.
Well, I ain't got no dogs here, so if it is, I don't know. I don't know what kind of shit it might be.
God, this has been a fun episode, just talking about nonsense, and it's kind of us.
Yeah, this is good, just sitting around talking. I mean, you figure if you're going to hang out with your buddies and talk and just have conversation, why not record it?
Why not?
Well, that's kind of why I was excited about this episode. When I hate to say that Jared ended up stuck, but I was like, hey, I'm not going to sit there and stress myself over finding somebody to replace it. I said, let's just come here and talk about some shit.
Well, you know
might
what?
not be
We could
thinking about.
if we would have known that he got hurt molding his asshole, we could have got one of those hemorrhoid rings and put in the chair, and he could have sat on that, and he would have been okay.
Yeah, he would have been fine. I think I got some aloe out in the car.
You could put it on him if you want to. Now
No,
that's
I'm not
going
gonna
a
put it
little too
on for
far.
him. No, he can apply it himself. But those are some of my favorite podcasts. Like you listen to Joe Rogan, he's just got him and his comedian buddies like Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, Ari Shaffir, guys like that. Those are the best ones where they're just sitting around drinking and
They don't
Joey Diaz stories.
oh
my God.
man, Joey Diaz. Yeah.
You don't have to have a narrative. You can just talk.
Yeah. I mean, you can literally, and I kind of like modeling my show or our show after Rogan just a little bit. And for that aspect, it's like, like you said, he'll have Neil deGrasse Tyson on, an astrophysicist, or he might have, a huge political person or a huge psychologist or something on, or a huge
Dale Jr.
mathematician. And the next week he's got Dale Jr. or Bert Kreischer
Or Elon Musk, and they get high as shit in the
Yes.
studio.
everybody. That's what I like about this show. I like going back and forth.
Well, talking about iconic people, like I think comedians, right now are more relevant than they've been in a long time. I mean, you look at guys like Chappelle and Rogan more for his show. I mean, he's a comic too, but his podcast is the biggest podcast on the planet. It's got to be.
It's a
It
big.
is.
It's the most listened to or watched.
I would say it's a
on the
media
planet.
empire.
Yeah, for sure.
And Dave Chappelle, a comedy empire. And Dave Chappelle has done nothing but spit facts
Oh yeah.
about the hypocrisy. What he does is he outlines the hypocrisies in society with jokes.
I love guys like him and Lewis Black. And Lewis Black, he's getting up there in age too, but man, I love his.
I was a huge fan of George Carlin back in the day.
And I'm not trying to offend those that feel insulted by Dave Chappelle, but there are some out there. But we're talking about hypocrisy in society, and Dave Chappelle just brought it to the forefront. And Netflix finally stood up for it.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was shocked.
It's just common sense. That's all he's stating facts. He's speaking from a place of common sense. And
Well, woke culture has all but ruined comedy, and whether you agree with me or not, then you don't know what good comedy is.
Yes, it
'Cause
is.
everybody out there is so afraid to say this or so afraid that comedy is about pointing out those differences and laughing about it, no matter what it is.
It can
That's
be
what
any
comedy
difference.
is about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You make fun of everybody. Everybody is free game. That is why South Park has lasted so many years. Is because they don't hold back from anybody. You
Nope.
can't come at them and say, "Oh, well, you're just nope." Nope, we made fun of them here. Oh, well, you can't do this. Nope, made fun of them here. I mean, there's nobody. South
There's
Park.
nobody they haven't hit,
No.
and nobody they haven't featured.
And that is true comedy. Everybody is free game. I don't care if it's a mentally disabled person. I don't care if it's a rape victim. I know these are hardcore things to say right here. And I'm not saying that I find these jokes funny. What I'm saying is when it comes to these sort of things, it's free speech is about defending the things that you don't like, not defending the things that you do like. So it's those jokes like that everybody has to be fair game. If not, then
People
you're
just need their
nitpicking
feelings
away at
hurt
it.
sometimes, I guess, and then we need to get used to it. Again, we used to. We didn't have a problem with it before.
yeah,
Until we started biting our tongue, we didn't have a problem.
what a time to be alive. And you were trying to start a conversation about growing up in the 90s or growing 80s and 90s. I mean, we grew up in a time I'm sure we were all bullied at one point, and we're tougher for it. You got to have some kind of backbone. You can't just
Learn how to deal with it. Yes.
cry every time somebody calls you a name or picks on you. You eventually you're going to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
and maybe there's some that just don't. But that's life. Life, at some point in time, not everybody is going to make it. Not everybody's got the charisma or the gall to be able to do things. And maybe there are some that just will never stand up for themselves for whatever reason. That's what happens when, honestly, you when technology starts getting to the way it is, you stop weeding out the weaker people, and that's essentially what it boils down to. And then you start watering down the gene pool, and then you get to this point in time where freaking words offend people, and mowing the lawn is murder because it's killing defenseless grass. I mean, this is where we're at, and you're seeing now the pushback against it. People are finally starting to be like, okay, look, this is just a little bit too nonsensical. Let's just take it back just a hair. Let's push it back just a little. This stuff is starting to get and good. I mean, I'm sorry, it's absolutely absurd when dudes are going out here swimming in women's events, and
That is absurdity.
and
I'm
competing
sorry.
in UFC and things like that. If a man transitions to a woman, he goes and competes in women's sports. How many women out there who are transitioning into men are going and competing in men's sports? They're not. They're staying in women's sports. I mean, this is. I'm tired of dancing around this nonsense like it's offensive. It's fucking ridiculous, and it needs to stop. I mean, there's no reason to have men. And that's why we had these things in the first place. That's why we have Title IX. That's why we have women and men's sports.
It's biology. It's simple biology. You're either born a
Male or woman,
a male or a female.
And you can dress like whatever you want. I'll
Sure,
even call
yeah.
you she if you want to. I
Same,
don't care.
Same here. And
No, I will not. I will not call you she. I will call you a name if you have a name. You
Oh,
want me
yeah,
to
okay,
call
man.
you. If you were a guy and you transition into a female, I'm not going to call you a her.
Yeah,
or
I'll
a
call
she
you
'cause
Shirley.
you're
I mean,
not.
I don't care.
But if you want to be called, yeah, I'm going to respect that. I got no problem doing what
Not
you
a
want to
problem
do.
at all.
Absolutely, it's America. If you want to, you want to do it, do it. By all means, you have all the but. I'm not going to sit here. I should not be. I should not be forced to play along with your fantasy.
You're not
And
going
I'm
to pretend that
to.
they were born something
And
else.
I'm not going to.
there needs if people are going to go through with these transitions, and they have a right to. I'm
Fully
all for it.
supported, yeah.
Fully supportive.
Do what you want.
They need to have leagues for transgender
Maybe that's
people.
the best solution.
I mean, it's not.
Most of these people aren't even transitioning; they're just taking hormones and things like that. Like
Yeah.
there should be people set up there to talk to you before you even transition as well. Because I mean, and it's as simple as a meme I saw. It's somebody goes in there and says, "Hey, doctor, I want to chop off my pinky," and the doctor's looking at him. It's like, "Oh, you should really see somebody in mental health." And then right below it, it's the same picture, and it's like, "Oh, doctor, I want to chop off my penis." And the doctor's like, "Oh, you're so brave." I mean, what are we doing here? I mean,
because
I mean,
there's no end to it. Number one, you're going to put a male. What was the guy that swimmer? You put a male swimmer in there, and he's winning the women's competitions.
Yeah, what was he like? He was way down in the.
He was a terrible men's swimmer, but he was a fantastic women's swimmer.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And you know what? It's not fair to these female athletes that work
It's
their asses
not.
off to compete, and then you got a man coming in with this like extreme upper body strength, and he comes in and dominates the whole thing. It's
Where does it end?
I don't.
And-
I don't
and-
feel. I don't feel sorry for those girls. Though they had plenty of time to speak up and speak out, and
And
they
they need
waited to
to.
the very end when, like, the last girl got knocked out or whatever. No, you had plenty of time to speak up. I don't agree with it.
They should have
but those
walked
are the
out.
rules. You should have all walked out on the spot, and you should have made an example of it. And so we're not doing this. So you know what I mean? Like, I don't agree with it. I think it's ridiculous and stupid. But those girls had every opportunity.
So where does it end? Here's my question.
It's about to end now because I think,
I think it is
because I
ending.
think people are just at their wits' end with the nonsense.
But
of the
if you
woke
let
culture.
it go, how come retirement Social Security age is
Well,
what,
if you,
65?
how far does it go? How far does it go? People end up going in there and saying, "Well, I don't like my legs. I want to get robotic legs.
What-
I want to get, these legs will make me faster and more adverse." Or this person's like, "Oh, well, I want to get Neuralinked into the system or whatever, so I can just be fed." Intravenously, and my brain is constantly in the matrix, essentially, because that's what this whole metaverse is working towards.
So-
Neuralinks and stuff like that.
Tell me
I mean,
this: if I'm
you have bored Kyle to death.
Well, no, I'm
let me
65,
tell you-
65 years old. You get to retiring at Social Security, right? I'm 40 years old. I want to be 65 tomorrow, Billy, so I can retire and get Social Security.
Yeah.
No, they'll say, no, you were born. You're only 40. That's when you were born. No, if I can be a woman, I can be 65. As far as the gender
Yeah.
or sex, however you want to put it.
Yeah, or to make it simpler, if somebody decides to walk into a courtroom in a furry outfit and say, "I identify as a furry" or whatever, they're going to be laughed right out of the courtroom. You know what I mean? Like, but why not? Why can't they be identified as a furry?
Right.
Why can't they go in there and be identified as a frog or a cat? I mean, it's just
Why can't I re-enroll in high school?
if you
I
want to
identify as a 15-year-old.
if you want to identify as a lawnmower, I'll call you John Deere. I mean,
Exactly. I'll call you whatever you want to do. But you're still who you are. We can't change your DNA. And Lord help us if we could, how much trouble we'd be screwing up.
and sorry, you guys were not boring me. I just got a text message asking me if Justin and I are available to play at the Coves this Saturday, opening for the Mavericks.
The Mavericks. Pretty sure that's a pretty big country music band back in the day.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
God,
to
what's some of their
find-
big songs? I'm
Waiting to find out the news here, or trying to get an answer from Justin. I hope he does it.
If not, you should hit up Josh Grice and get in there and play.
Yeah, man.
The Mavericks. God, what song did they have back in the day that was big in our elementary to high school lifetime? I know there was one or two out there they had that were all over the radio. I'm about to Google it right here and look it up. The Mavericks, dude, that would be so awesome.
Yeah. Any?
All you ever do is bring me down. Y'all remember that song?
Yeah.
They did that one.
What a crying shame.
Yeah. Oh, what a thrill. There goes my heart. What a crying shame. Dude, can you get us backstage passes?
Maybe. Let me talk to
The Mavericks.
And I just want to put it. What I'm saying is that we need to be careful of that perspective because we're gonna keep letting it go, and we're gonna get into some weird stuff if we're not careful. As I said, support them all. Every person, I'm gonna treat you as equal. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm gonna defend you. If you
I'm
transition,
going to defend your right to do whatever you want to do, but do not come at me and ask me to participate in your fantasy, or don't force me to do it. I will acknowledge you as a human being, and I will acknowledge your right to exist, and that goes for anybody and everybody, unless you're a pedophile. And then if you come around me, you're getting put in the wood chipper. No freaking questions asked. There's no negotiating to that. Otherwise,
or if you're Josh Grice.
Yeah. Well, he is a gymnast.
But I don't know, and I don't want to be too controversial on the subject because, like I say, I love everybody, and I want everybody to have that chance, and I want them to be accepted. And if I see a transition person, I want to take up for them too. I don't want them getting hurt.
Right.
And actually, physical, mentally abused, hurt. They deserve. They are a human being. They had something go on, and they did what they needed to do for themselves. They have every right. I'm going to take up for that person. I'm going to stand up for that person because they don't have the right to. They're not doing anything where they should be treated bad.
Sure. I think it's the same if when you're growing up, some of us had strict parents. Like my parents wouldn't let me wear certain clothes and stuff when I was. And
some parents wouldn't let you watch Beavis and Butthead or
But we still did.
Yeah.
And I always felt like I wasn't able to express myself because my parents made me wear, stuff you see in the J.C. Penney or Sears catalog, and and I didn't want to wear anything like outrageous. I didn't want to wear like
Big Johnson,
Big Johnson, and like studded leather pants and stuff like that.
Big Johnson and No Fear.
Yeah, No Fear. Remember Umbro shorts?
Yeah,
real big when we were in elementary school.
Yep, Umbros.
But I get it, and you're right. People should be able to be comfortable in their own skin and be able to go out and be comfortable and not have fear of being attacked. And
I just want to understand. I want society and those people to understand where we're coming from on this. And I accept them. I accept you. I really do. And I'm going to take up for you. Really. But we shouldn't be forced to do anything. We should understand it. I want to be a part of it. If a transgender person wants to come in here and talk on the show and have a conversation, let's do it by all means.
sure.
I mean,
but I don't think this is the problem. I don't think these things happen. I think
the media is
I think
putting
most
it
of these
into
things are
people's head.
fabricated and they're put into people's heads. Like if you're walking up and down the street, you're not even going to know somebody's trans. It's like this whole MAGA country nonsense with Juicy Smollett. These things are fabricated to cause division. I think for the most part, Americans walk up and down the street, they don't give a shit. They just want to be left alone, or they want to say hi and be good neighbors. But other than that, they don't really care who you are or what you do. All this stuff is media driven just to continue to keep us at each other's throats. That's it. Like, what is transgender really? Like, one out of one every like 5,000 people. I mean, it's just so,
And they walk down the street, and we're not even going to know
Yeah,
it. We're
nobody
going to
cares.
treat them like
Yeah.
everybody
nobody
else.
cares.
I've been in. I was over at Spike's shooting pool one night. Girl walks in. I happened to notice because she was like 6'3", 6'3" tall redhead, transgender. I didn't know. I mean, I wasn't hitting on her or anything, but I didn't know. You know, I just noticed her height, but it didn't bother me. And I had a transgender.
Apparently it did, you transphobe, because you noticed her height.
I
and you didn't hit on her either, so you're.
I was with
you're being-
I was with someone.
Oh, come on! You should still be. You should still be intrigued.
And I don't want, and
transphobe.
that's exactly right. I don't want people being broke down based on what Billy just said. You can't say, well, you didn't hit on her, so you must be a transphobe. What? I know I'm with another person.
This is the logic. They have no logic. This is the way they operate. They are living off in a fantasy world, and we should start ignoring them. We should stop talking about them. We should stop acknowledging their utter nonsense. That's it.
Have y'all been to B-Dubs at Tanglewood recently?
No,
Been a couple months.
and I'll let you tell your story first before I bash that place into the ground.
No, I get it, but no, I went. Oh, this has been months ago. I ended up going twice in like a 2-week period. And our weight got the same server both times we were there. Transgender woman. It bothered me a bit, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't treat that person any differently
She's
than I
working a
treat.
job. She's doing her thing.
Yeah. And it's a damn good server, too. Probably
Yeah.
better than half the people that were working there.
Well, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing, you know, and in the spirit of Simon Winch, I'm going to go ahead and say it, be contentious. It's the same thing with this whole Pride Month stuff. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care what goes on in your bedroom. That should not matter. The only thing that should matter is what you do and how you accomplish things in life. The rest of it doesn't matter. I don't need a straight Pride Month. I don't think we need a bestiality Pride Month. I don't think we need a necrophiliac Pride Month. We don't need any kind of Pride Month for anybody. Just be your damn self and go out here and live your life. We don't. I mean, why are we celebrating these
Let's
things?
celebrate
Don't
us
celebrate
12
your
months out of the
lifestyle.
year.
Celebrate
Right,
your
celebrate
ideas. Celebrate your ideas,
Yeah.
not your lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like there's people out there who are awful human beings. Sometimes they have great ideas. You know what? I'll celebrate your ideas. I don't. You know. Sometimes I'm willing to excuse what you may or may not do, and that's good or bad. And it's not just for this, but it's. I mean, think about this. The same asshole woke companies out here that are putting gay pride flags in their Twitter profiles right now, they're not changing their Middle Eastern Twitter profiles right now, are they? Raytheon sure as hell ain't
you're
doing it.
right.
They're not.
Exactly
BMW
right.
doesn't change their profile in the Middle East. You know what I mean? Like these people, they are using the gay people in this country. They're all putting them into this giant little bubble. They're not the same. Gay, LGBTQAI, they're all not the same. They're not. You're grouping all these people. Like a gay person is not the same as a transgender, who's not the same as a binary gender fluid person. They're not. You're all grouping them in and using them as fodder to
Yes.
to make a
Exploit their
dime, to
products.
exploit them. Exactly. And
They're
this isn't just
exploiting
towards
them.
gay people. This is the same thing that the Wounded Warrior Project does. They exploit wounded veterans, and they take in all these donations, and 95% of it goes to like administration fees, so they can
Exactly.
drive around in Mercedes and have nice buildings. It's the same thing the NRA does. It's the same thing that Black Lives Matter does. It's the same thing
Joel
that
Osteen does.
the gay pride
Yep.
people do. It's all a freaking racket. So
Yeah.
no, I'm not behind.
We are
the-
literally when they do that. I don't know. The demonizing is not. Are they marginalizing gay people, or they're putting them into that? It's just not right what they're doing to them by doing that. I don't like it. Don't matter to me that do things rainbow. I mean, what difference does it make? But aren't you really hurting them by that stand?
Well,
by
yeah,
that standard?
and I mean they're and a lot of the gay people, I've spoken with about it. They're regressing all the rights they really fought with. You know what I mean? It's like they, all these people over the years, and it goes
'Cause
not
they're being singled out.
It goes for anybody and everybody. They fought all this time for equality, and now finally equality comes. Like you get gay marriage. What do you think after all these activists finally get gay marriage? They're going to be like, well, we got all this money to push this issue over all this time. And we got what we wanted. Do you think we're just going to go away now? Nope, they're going to find something else to fight so they can justify their existence. They're not really activists because they really care. They're activists because activism is a job to them. And once they win somewhere or they lose somewhere, they're just going and be an activist for the next cause because they don't really care. They just care about the money. You know, it's just like cancer research. I mean, what's the point in finding a cure when they're giving billions every year for it?
Yeah, sending people to the poorhouse for
And I do.
medications.
And the majority of gay people, transgender, I kind of feel bad for them when these companies are splattering that everywhere. I really do believe it singles them out.
Oh,
What is norm? What's gay? Now here's the thing. Here's what's they don't what I don't know what part of that world doesn't realize. Gay people and transgender are normal to us. Makes no
everybody's
difference.
normal. Everybody's a human.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it's
matter.
no difference
But
to me.
they do these things to constantly.
When we put it
so
out
we
there,
can then nobody can ever ally out. It's always black or white or Christian or Muslim or gay or straight or it's always something out there they're using that's going to constantly try and divide us based on something arbitrary and nonsensical. That's just how, it's just how the game is played. But the veil is being pulled back. We're finally starting to see that people, and this might end up going down as a great Cheeto dust revolution of 2022, that we are finally, just kicking all this nonsense back and being able to finally tell people, shut up. Just shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Stop with the nonsense. Shut up. Just let's use common sense and logic from here on out.
Yeah.
Let's go have fun.
Yeah, whatever they do, if they own businesses in Rocky Mountain, I'm going to support them. It doesn't matter. I
support a good business in Rocky Mountain. I don't care who owns it. That's never anything.
One of my
I've never once in my life ever looked up, okay, Rocky Mountain businesses, restaurants.
Not owned by gay.
Who are they owned by? I got to find out and know. I'm like, what do they got? What does people talk about them? And let's go there and try it out.
The 3 restaurants I frequent the most are all owned by minorities.
Hey, Bodine, that's 2 parts stunning and 1 part brave.
Well, no,
stunning and brave.
Well, the Country Barn over at 6 Mile Post.
I've yet to go there.
Oh, it's awesome. They grill pimento cheese. They take pimento cheese and put it on the flat top, and they grill it, and then they put grilled onions on top of it. And then they take Texas toast and toast it and put it on both sides. It's this humongous sandwich. It just makes my mouth water thinking about it.
I always see the signs going up to Wade Park for my kids' soccer games, and I always want to stop in there, but we never.
It is hardcore country cooking. Every time you go in there, it is just country cooking.
Good people too.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then Hemas. Hemas is my most frequented restaurant, probably. Out of all of them, I got to think we go to Hemas all the time. And it's owned by they're Egyptians, cool guys, great work for the community.
Yeah.
And then the Mexican restaurants in the county are all pretty much. I don't know who they're owned by. I know that El Rio is owned by Caesar.
Caesar is a part owner, and Caesar actually just opened up Jose's here in town. So go check it out. I think he's opened up his own.
Is that where Los Tres?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So that'll probably be a good place.
I don't know who owns El Rodeo, but they're kind of a local chain. So I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
Well, we also have the new burrito bar down there where Buddy's used to be. God, I can't remember the name of them because it's kind of long.
It is a long name.
Dude, they've got some of the most authentic, best burritos you can possibly get.
It is good food.
And let's also talk about Ella's Eats. I mean, there are plenty of
Ella's Eats drops
we
fire.
Saw Cheryl up at Chaos a couple weeks ago. Cheryl.
Cheryl.
The
I saw her
potatoes
on the show this weekend.
She's going to come on the show at some point in time, dude. Ella's Eats is the most
Oh
bomb
my
ass.
God.
I felt so bad. She came up to me the other night and she said, "You remember me?" And I could not. I knew her last name was Witcher, and I worked at McDonald's with her for however many years when we were in high school, and we used to cut up in McDonald's. But it's been like 20 some years, and I just
your brain goes blank.
Yeah, I know her, and I knew her last name, but I could not place her first name. But man, that place, smelling those wings come out of that.
I haven't even tried their wings yet because I always get the potato.
I've never got past the potatoes.
Yeah, I hadn't either. I mean, they are out of this world. We got Cheryl. She's going to come on the show here eventually. So, in this town, people thrive. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. All that matters is you have a good product. And there are so many good products here.
I think a lot of times people mistake, the libertarian mindset, the freedom fighters for, I don't know what. I think a lot of people mistake, I don't know how they get racist out of.
You think we're demonizing people?
Yeah. I don't get that. I don't understand it. But
show me how. Show me how.
I will say that
I'll change. Whatever.
Yeah.
You prove it to me.
I will say in the last 4 or 5 months, I had been dating someone, and this girl just happens to be black, but I've been dating her,
She just
and
happens to be.
no, I mean in the sense of this subject, the subject matter
I'm
that
just
we're
I'm just
talking
messing
about
with
here.
you.
But
You don't waited to the fourth date to figure that out. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I had no idea, had no clue.
He's such a racist.
Dang, happens to be black.
No, but I will say this: like a lot of things that I did not notice before, as a white person, and I do think white privilege is a real thing. I do now more than ever because I witnessed it firsthand. Going places with her coming out to our shows, and the way that that she was treated versus the way I was treated in public places, the looks and things of that nature. It was a really great learning experience.
Well, I think that is.
for me.
I think that, and we should call that for what it is. It's not white privilege; it's majority privilege. Because if you were to go to Somalia tomorrow, you would not get the same privileges as a white person. In fact, you'd probably get beheaded. Or if you were a black person or a white person in China, you'd not be afforded the same privileges as if you were a Chinese person.
Sure.
So it's really majority privilege. It just so happens in this country that the white people are the majority. So your point still stands.
Sure.
But
Right.
it's those small, simple language things that people have ingrained us that we end up using that we still, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up in a trailer, so I don't know what white privilege is. But I understand the concept in this country because perception wise, white people have run this country for ever and ever and ever. But it's because it's the majority. It's not because I don't think it's just because to some degree it is. It is something that's kind of planned out. You know what I mean? Like they do. Like these people in DC are all scum, and they want to keep each other employed, and each other just happens to be white people for the most part. But I think this country, the normal people, aside from, and even you saying you've seen some of the differences and stuff, that is still just ingrained nature that just has to be eradicated to some degree. And I think we're finally getting there, but I understand your point though completely.
Because if she walked in here, we're going to treat her just like we're going to treat her as Kyle's girlfriend.
Right, sure.
Yeah. Don't make it. But so some of the things you saw out there, though, like just like people just kind of turning up their nose and things like that.
Oh yeah, we went to McAdoo's one night. We just went out for quick dinner and drinks, and this couple, white couple, came and sat down next to the table in front of or beside us, and you could hear, like, as soon as they sat down, you could hear them like mumbling stuff under their breath, and I heard the woman say something to the effect of, "Well, I'm not eating here," and
Well, get
they
out.
They both got up and left. They both got up and left.
I'm glad I know that now. I'm glad I know. I'm like, I've seen these people. I won't forget that face.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's not the first time we were.
They're horrible human beings, is what they are.
The
That
things that people say to her too. It's like it's not necessary. Like we were up at Devil's Backbone, and we were playing. It was the end of the night. We do some reggae stuff, and we do a lot of like, we cover stuff like Sam Cooke and some Bob Marley and stuff like that. And this guy got up and walked over to her and leaned in, and not even with a smile on his face, he just looked at her and goes, "Well, I guess you're the reggae influence, huh?"
what?
Oh, yeah.
That was bold.
Man, yeah, that was really bold. And that's not the only thing that.
And see, and like I said, I'll go back to my talking points: gay, transsexual. I'm going to be just like you. I'm going to hang out with that person. I may not have a physical relationship with them, but if we're out in public together and somebody's making fun of them, we're going to stand up to that. I mean, you don't like us, get out. I don't want you around me.
Well, and that's the thing
this is
too,
my
and-
friend. This is a person. This is a human. He's different than you. Well, he's not. I mean, he has different issues than you or something. I don't want to sound offensive when I say that, but he's really not different than you.
Right.
Your perception of him is different, and it's not right. He is a human being. She is a human being.
And things like that, and things like you all have experienced, yes, they do occur, and we acknowledge that things like that occur. We also have to acknowledge as well that things like in other cultures as well. So, say take the Indian culture for example. You get a prominent Indian family, and the father wants his daughter to marry another prominent Indian fella, and she brings home a white dude or anybody else that's not an Indian. Well, there's going to be issues. Same thing with Chinese culture. Like these are all culture differences that are scrutinized a whole lot more than they are here, at least in the United States. Like we are still so much for, and yeah, you're going to meet this ignorant couple like you all had from time to time, but the overwhelming majority, you walk by, nobody cares. Nobody really cares. Do what you want to do. Be free to date who you want to. And yeah, so let's acknowledge those things happen, and there are assholes out here that are white. But
I think me and
those
Billy
things happen
both.
Those happens in other cultures everywhere.
Is to be able to do everything we can to change that about Franklin County. I think that's one of our goals, a common goal here with the podcast, is to make sure that we're uniting those people. We're doing something here. Yeah. We can't change the world.
I don't want to unite anybody. What I want people to do is take their blinders away.
Yeah.
I want you to take away your mass mainstream media blinders, all the nonsense you've been fed over the years, the indoctrination you've got through the schooling system and through media and TV and all this kind of stuff. Just pull it back and walk outside and look at your neighbor and be like, wow, my neighbor's pretty cool.
Exactly.
He's different than me. He doesn't look the same as me, but he's cool. Yeah. So obviously,
I look different than him, to his people. I mean, in all fairness, if I'm a straight guy, and if I go into a gay club, they're gonna be looking at me a little strange if they don't know me. I'm the outsider. But
bullshit, they definitely know who you are in a gay club voting. Don't even.
I was using it
don't
as an
even
example.
try. But a bad example because they know who you are. I guarantee you, Bowden's number is written on the stall at the park. In the back room, his number is back there, and he etched it.
But I honestly believe that we would all be accepted in that situation. Yeah, I think that culture is more accepting than our own culture at times.
Man, I was in my.
I mean, is that fair to say? I would say, and like when I was in high school, we went to the Bahamas. I just graduated high school. John Clements took us, and I was his family / church group went to the Bahamas. I was the only white guy in the group. What did they do? They treated me like normal. I was part of the group.
They needed somebody to make fun of as the worst dancer of the week.
Well, I was that. Well, that's true. That's why they brought him. They did not. They did not like pointing that out. I was the worst dancer, probably on the whole island. But again, they accepted me. Why is it our group is the one that makes fun of people sitting at the table?
That's a good question.
It's not. It's everybody. You just don't happen to always catch it because different situations call for different comments.
And you know what? If you step back and look at the differences in culture between any race, but like white people and black people, I think the funniest comedy that I've ever seen is vice versa. Is black people making fun of us.
It's hilarious.
And us making fun of them. It is hilarious. And,
especially if they can go back and forth.
Yeah, celebrate your differences and have a sense of humor about yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. How Cat Williams makes fun of white people.
Oh,
I mean, like he was talking about if you call up a white person in the middle of the night for a phone, they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, no, there's no Shaniqua here, but go ahead and call back, get the number, we'll figure it out." He's like, white people are so polite, and they just, that stuff just it cracks me up. I love hearing it. When did we ever get so pussified that jokes hurt? God Almighty, I love it. I mean, I love the ability for people to come together and just laugh at stuff.
Dave Chappelle was convinced that was going to be his final episode, and if anything, it made him bigger than ever.
Yeah,
larger than he was before.
Well, all these guys are always doing. I mean, artists are big for that, doing their farewell tour, and then 3 years later they'll come back for a reunion tour, and then it's just how they market
I think
things.
Dave Chappelle is an opportunist. I think more than likely he felt like the stuff he was going to say may...
I don't even think his last special was that funny. The one before was super funny, but his last one was basically just a F you to everybody, and he was just going out there
That's what I liked about it, though.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe that's what I liked.
It wasn't really funny, but it was like...
He said screw everybody. He left nobody unscrewed.
It seems like he'll come out and do a special when he has something to say, and that's fine. But you look at guys like Carlin, who... By the way, on HBO Max, they have a new 2-part series, like a docu-series on George Carlin. It is amazing. And I had no idea about like half of his life, but
Carlin's my hero.
He wrote a new special every year.
Every year.
All he did was write. And I've never heard anyone speak just as clearly, and I don't know, man. I mean,
Dude, his rants on like airport security
Yeah.
are the greatest. I mean, George Carlin was far and above.
Was the goat. One of the goats.
I mean,
He is a comedy. He is a comedy goat.
but I mean, even then, like today, they would never allow Richard Pryor or Eddie Murphy or any of these guys to exist in the current culture we're in. I mean,
Carlin and
these people
Pryor
who
came up together.
Yeah.
You're right though. They wouldn't let any of those guys out.
No,
here doing
and I
any
mean
of that
these
stuff.
guys were pioneers. They were the ones who were blazing trails, and now these people today who claim that they're speaking for these people. I'm sorry, like Malcolm X said, there is nobody worse for the black movement than white liberals. I mean, these are the ones out here who are screaming up and
Didn't
down.
he make a good point there?
Everybody, they're the ones up here screaming up and down about this cancel culture nonsense, and they would be canceling Eddie Murphy today if he was around back then. And they're doing it all in the name of, these
They
people
began
didn't even
canceling
mistakes. Yeah,
themselves.
absolutely. I mean, God, these people were part of our childhoods. I mean, to have places come in here and point at Rocky Mount as some kind of like, utopia for white supremacists and racists is just so completely far off the scale. I mean, like, I go to Bowden's house at 10 years old, there's Michael Jordan posters up everywhere. I mean, that's how every kid in this town was. Michael Jordan or Patrick Ewing or Michael Jackson.
Yeah, Ken Griffey Jr.,
Ken Griffey
right?
Jr., yes.
Barry Bond,
Barry Sanders. Everywhere you go, I mean that's
Sanders,
not
Bo Jackson.
conducive of a racist society. That's conducive of a very accepting
And
society.
I would love to sit down and drink liquor with Michael Jordan. I would love to have that conversation.
I'd like to
even
drink
know where
with
to
Charles
begin.
Barkley over any NBA.
Oh, it would be hilarious. wouldn't it?
Man.
That's a trash talking. It's him and Jordan going back and forth trash talking has got to be
Yes.
some of the greatest. There, have you ever watched watched during the '92 Dream Team the backstage stuff with them, like when you're following and hearing them talking about it?
Was that on The Last Dance?
Well, some clips of it were.
I need to go back and watch that again. That was
That was phenomenal. I don't like ESPN, and I don't watch it
was
anymore.
phenomenal.
That's the last and only thing I've watched in probably 10 years on ESPN, but it
Same.
was
Because
phenomenal.
And it was funny because Charles Oakley was telling the story, but for some reason he was kind of the middleman in telling the story about Tony Kukoc coming in. And Tony Kukoc was the guy that Jerry Krause and was it Jerry Krause or Jerry Reinsdorf? I think it was Jerry Krause.
Reinsdorf was the owner.
Reinsdorf was the owner. Jerry Krause was recruiting Tony Kukoc to come in and replace Jordan, essentially, or to some extent. He was. I mean, he knew Jordan would. He was thinking Jordan's time was going to run out. Blah blah. So Tony Kukoc was in Croatia, and they drafted him. They drafted Tony Kukoc in '92, but he didn't come over and play. It was some sort of agreement deal. So when the Olympics came around, Tony Kukoc was on the Croatian basketball team,
Who just happened to be playing
the
Dream
U.S.
Team.
And they said that Tony Kukoc was the only guy they were worried about. Like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen were over there guarding him. Charles Barkley said they was guarding him when he was on the bench. They said they was over guarding this man when he was on the bench. He never touched the ball in the U.S. game. They was hardcore into it. I don't know how I got off on that subject, but that was just cool to hear those guys. And Charles Barkley telling those stories is like, man, they just couldn't get. Tony Kukoc never even got the ball, never even got to look at the basketball. And he was beating all of Croatia at basketball.
Well, I think it just leads to the greater point that, I mean, everything we see today, all this kind of cancel culture nonsense is completely just dismantling everything that we grew up with in the 90s. I mean, the 90s was such a wonderful time to grow up, and we had, even as divisive as it was, the West Coast, East Coast stuff with Biggie and Tupac and Suge and all that stuff. And, but you had Michael Jordan and all, Michael Jackson, all this stuff was going on. Grunge music, the 90s was so freaking awesome. Everything kind of culminated back then, it seems like. We were the last generation to know what it was like to call a buddy on the phone and say, all right, I'm coming to your house, I'll be there in 15 minutes. And they were waiting on the stoop for you because you couldn't call and text them and say, I'll stop by buddy's house real quick to pick up a bag of weed, or I swung by the store to grab something. You don't text them, you're there in 15 minutes because there was no phones, there was no internet.
It was so nice not to have this damn leash. I mean,
It was.
I love it for work.
Yeah.
But everything else.
Me and Billy, now this is a true story, but me and Billy would get a new movie that we both wanted to watch, but couldn't be at each other's house. We both have had the movie, and we would get on the phone and push play at the same damn time.
Yeah, I remember doing stuff like that for sure. Yeah.
I've done it with with other people too. It's like, we couldn't be at each other's house, so we're like, all right, let's watch a movie, and we would
Start it
all
on
right,
3, 2, 1, hit
play.
start, so it's going at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, those are things we did. We didn't have
It
the
was-
internet or anything.
I remember doing that with Dumb and Dumber. Oh man, I remember.
Now, that was a great movie of the 90s. Though, Dumb and Dumber has withstood the test of time.
It has. Still to this
I
day.
watch back movies in the 90s and like a lot of Adam Sandler movies, for example. I'm like, man, that was so great back then, but I can see why my parents looked at it and been like, it's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten older, that kind of. But Dumb and Dumber withstood. Like, I can still to this day watch Dumb and Dumber and be like, man, that movie it still cracks me up to this day.
Yeah,
I do encourage both of y'all, and you don't have to take my advice. Go see Top Gun before it's out of the theater.
Oh, I am for sure going to see that.
I haven't seen a movie. The last movie I seen in theater was what was Keanu Reeves?
Matrix, John Wick.
John Wick. That was the last time I seen it. I never go to theaters.
I just watched the second John Wick last night, actually. Man.
So the only reason I went to the theater for this, number one, I thought those seats up there were cool and looked comfortable, but the fact that you get the enormous sound system, and I knew with all the jets that it was just going to be unreal in the sound, and that being able to feel it. It felt like we were Russia was attacking us. Like it was like jets and bombs and missiles and gunfire. It was so animated you could feel it in your body. You can't get that experience at home.
No.
You can't do it. And that's what made it cool. And looking at now, we think back. This movie has been in the works, been made for 10 years. It was actually finished in like 2017 or 2018. It was scheduled for release in October of 2019. It was pushed back to May of 2020. Well, COVID took care of that. Well, it got pushed back to May of 2022. Tom Cruise, as the producer, refused to allow it to go to DVR or to stream because he knew it needed to be experienced in person.
Well, yeah, I mean, they spent like what was it, $20,000 per hour for each jet that they used in the movie.
See, before I really seen the making of it and stuff, I was figuring, this is going to be a bunch of CGI shit, and it's just not going to be the same. It wasn't. These were real jets, real sequences. They even had the actors flying rear seats in the jets, making the sequences. Like, they're really feeling the G's, their skin's getting pulled down. It's no fake shit, man. They are really doing it. It's really cool. And it's got a cool storyline to it, too. I really like how they wound the storyline, too.
No. Sorry.
It's just, it's worth seeing. I think it's $16 or $17 to see it in Blacksburg. And you're not going to miss out because that RPX studio will absolutely rip you to pieces.
Yeah, certain movies you have to see in the theater. I mean, I agree with you.
I'll
you can't
appreciate
get that
it more.
experience at home. And I do have a question. It might be a spoiler, but when it was filmed, did Val Kilmer still have a voice?
No.
No. Okay.
They addressed that in the movie. And I don't. And if I say any more, I'm going to spoil it. For you.
Okay.
It's not addressed. It's
So is this something from the first movie?
no. It's real life.
Okay.
Val Kilmer had throat cancer. There's a good documentary. That guy, he videotaped his entire life.
Like,
pretty
I
much.
saw something about that recently.
It's crazy. Like, he documented everything, like from when camcorder started, maybe the Super 8 cameras up until like today. But he documented his whole life, and they turned that into a documentary. And man, it's sad.
I will argue with anybody till the day I die. His performance in Tombstone as Doc Holliday is the greatest performance in any movie in the history of cinemation. Easily. Doc Holliday.
God, it's been so long since I've seen Tombstone.
It is. Tombstone is one of my top 5 all-time favorite movies.
One of my favorite performances was the Joker in the Batman. What was
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger. That's one of my favorite. When I think of great performances, I think of that too.
Yeah.
And I remember Val Kilmer was great in Tombstone. I just don't remember that. It's been so long since I've seen it. It was only a movie I watched once or twice, so I can't.
You need to go back and you need to just pay attention to him the entire time. His one-liners. I mean,
the one-liners
I'm
is
your
what I
Uncle
remember.
Barry and well, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
Which one was it? Him in the movie? I can't remember. Who Who slapped the dog piss out of Billy Bob
That
Thornton?
was
in
that
the
was
bar?
Kurt Russell in the same
Oh,
movie.
okay, that's right.
Kurt
that's
Russell
right.
in the same movie. Yeah, Kurt Russell played a hell of a part in that one.
Yeah,
Sam
he
Elliott
did.
in that
I
movie.
need to,
Bill Paxton in that movie. I mean, it was.
Oh man, yeah, he's gone.
All right, so
I gotta leave.
you gotta get out of here. All right, we're gonna go ahead. That's a good place to stop this anyway. We had a great talk tonight. One more thing I wanted to just drop real quick before I got out of here. This past weekend we were at Pig River Precision, and we had a hell of a time down there. Appreciate Mr. Bandy and Josh Bandy and Brad Kennett for allowing us to come down there. And there's one other thing. They had a fundraiser down there, and it was for a girl. Her name was Kayla. Let me double check. Her name real quick.
That sounds right.
Do you remember that, Bodine?
Yeah, because I was thinking it was a Leia or something, but I knew it had a K and an A in it. But I seen the name, and I completely missed it until Bradley come down there, and I seen some of it. But we were
Her
talking.
name is Michaela Russell, and she has a specific type of cancer. And
she broke her arm.
Yeah, she broke her arm and
Soccer
had a
or
big
something.
bump or something on it, and the bump never went away. So they kept going back and found out she had rhabdomyosarcoma, cancer in her left arm, lymph nodes, and bone marrow. Anyway, she's a young little girl. She looks to be under like 10 years old. Huge hockey fan, loves the Rail Yard Dogs. This past weekend, they made over $8,000 in donations down there at Pig River. So if you get a chance, go check out that GoFundMe. Just look for Michaela Strong, Makayla, and that's all out there. Where the guys did a great job this weekend supporting that. So go ahead and check out that link. We'll go ahead and post something on our page as well.
They basically accidentally found her cancer.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened to Craig Anderson actually. Like they
Yeah.
accidentally found his brain tumor. Like he just anyway, we'll get to that story at another time. But for us, look, go check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/getontap. It's $3 a month. All of our shows get released early there. You can check them out before they get to your normal apps. And it's $3 a month. You're supporting us. Why give $120 a year to Netflix? They hate you. We love you. We're trying to support the community. If everybody here just went on and gave $3 a month, even without the extra content, it would go so far for us. So check us out over there on Facebook, the Appalachian Podcast, at Get On Tap, Twitter. Follow us, the Appalachian Podcast, on Instagram. And for Kyle, Tin Can Locomotive.
Yeah, man. And for Tin Can Locomotive, Forry and Arnett, and Barefoot West. We got. Can I plug a show? Is that bad?
Yeah, no. Dude, that's why you're here. Plug away.
Right. Well, so Friday, June 17th, we're having a little Barefoot West reunion with three of us, me, Justin Arnett, and Jeff Maiden at Star Hill Brewing Company in Roanoke from 6 to 9. And on the 18th, me and Josh Grice will be at Chaos Mountain Brewing Company from 6 to 9. And for all those Franklin County folk out there, Tin Can Locomotive is going to be playing at the high school for the Independence
4th of July Festival.
Yeah,
Yes, I forgot
yeah.
about that.
So y'all come out, support us. We'll try to put on a good show.
All right.
That'll be
Appreciate it, Kyle.
Thank
It'll be a heck
y'all.
of a time
Thank
for
you for
everybody
having me,
else.
guys.
It'll, that weekend also be Simon's big 4th of July party. So if you know us and we've talked to you about coming up there for that one, get in touch with us and we'll give you all the details. It is a private party, but it will be one hell of a time. So for everybody out there, Bodine, Kyle, appreciate y'all's time. Been a hell
Thank
of an
you,
episode.
guys.
Talk at you later.
Catch you next time.
See ya.
If I told you, girl, that I loved you, would you come back to me? I've got the world on my shoulders, but I just can't hold her. If I do, then I just might break. With you by my side, I've no reason to hide. I write all that I've done wrong. Well, I've wanted you since the first day we met. It's just been way too damn long. And I want to show you that I want to know you, and I want to show you that I could be the one to love you. to talk, and if I had to, I'd walk just to see you one more time. It's been quite a while since I've seen you smile. I put my arms around you so tight. Remember the time of the passion, the crime when you stole my heart that night. And I want to show you that I want to know you. And I want to show you that I could be the one to love you. If I told you, girl, that I loved you, would you come back to me? I've got the world on my shoulders, but I just can't hold her. If I do, then I just might break. With you by my side, I've no reason to hide. I write all that I've done wrong. Well, I've wanted you since the first day we met. It's just been way too damn long. And I want to show you